United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have an agenda, but before we start that, I have some remarks that I'm going to make. After our department head evaluation, we need to take a look at the Board of County Commissioners. I rate the Board of County Commissioners as unsatisfactory, and I'm going to tell you why. Favoritism is rampant. See the videos, review the board actions over the last few years, and you'll find that out. Hatred and ill will permeate the actions and results of board actions. Again, see the video. The disgraceful meeting on last Thursday was completely unacceptable, and that the board engaged in a shouting, profane-laced session that is never, ever justified in a leadership setting. To use extremely loud and profane language is bad enough, but to direct it to a particular person is inconceivable. This board has frequently blamed problems on past boards. Members of past boards are yet with us in part and show no more ability to work with subordinates and equals than any board or example available to us in history. The business of having a multiple member board is to provide different views and to work to compress and compromise these views into a solution. That's not happening. Members of this board do not remember that they are not the board singly or when not in an official meeting. This sows confusion and conflict and presents a wishy-washy policy to the county. This board is a deliberative board and not a reactive one. Problems have to be examined in detail and thoughtfully considered before sending an edict that must need to be changed shortly thereafter. Leadership, sadly, is non-existent in today's board. I know of no instance, for example, where the board has assisted and trained subordinate leaders in their job. Yet there are several instances of enmity displayed in the termination of good people for personnel, not job-related reasons. It's time for this board to repair itself and get on with the business of Lincoln County. It should be reminded that this is a Lincoln County board, not 3 district boards that came together with secret and unwritten agendas. Now, let's go to correspondence.
Well, wait a minute. If you're gonna...
You certainly may.
Yeah, please. I would like some specific examples. Number one, namely because I did not record Thursday's meeting, and I was not participatory in the shouting, so I would like some... You can...
Nor was I.
So what other examples do you have when you're saying some of those things about coordination efforts, favoritism, yada, yada, yada? We need some... If we're going to have just a blanket accusation of this board, let's have some specifics, please.
I'm not going to provide specifics, and here's why. Because I want the voters to review those tapes and go back and pick their own examples, and there's plenty of examples in there. It's not my part to have a board of inquiry. It's the voters. I just want to note the problems and say we need to fix them, so let's fix them.
That doesn't satisfy my desire for a specific example for accusations, because you're one of the board. Are you self-accusing?
Yes, I am. As part of this board, I'm as guilty as anybody else. I would much have preferred this to do an executive session, but the law requires us to do an open session. That's why it's
Yeah,
here.
we can't have an executive session about our own board. I mean, is this just stemming from Thursday's outburst? Do we...
That's a trigger, yes it is. And that indicated that we have some serious faults and flaws on this board. This is not a new problem. This has been going on for a long time. As well as you know, you've said on 3 years of board, and this is not a problem that arose yesterday or Thursday.
Well, the current sitting members on this board have had more discussion and debate and open display of dissension than in the first 6 months. Let's say you came on, what, July of 2019, correct?
That's correct.
So in the first 6 months of this 3-member board, I experienced much more engagement, conversation, be it controversial or not. So I'm not gonna just blanket that as all negative.
I agree. I'm saying though, that we are not setting the example we ought to be setting. I'm not saying we're bad or good as far as history, but I'm saying that we have got a lot of improvement that we need to do to get this thing to work correctly.
Well, what is the root issue here of why there was an outburst? I mean, if we can't discuss that, of course, it's not fair to have that discussion without Randy here if you're indicating that I was not the one using profanity, neither were you. So obviously we're pointing to someone who's not here today. But that's not fair for him to not be able to defend himself. So let's at least just talk about what is your main point there?
My main point is, this board cannot agree on what it's supposed to be doing and cannot discuss and prepare satisfactory responses to the efforts that we have involved. For example, we can't come in, as I've said this before, with an agenda and make on-the-spot decisions based on an agenda. We've got to have some thoughtful deliberations. We don't have any. This board doesn't have a long-range plan. It's inconceivable to me that in however many years this board's been in existence, nobody's ever prepared a long-range plan. It's inconceivable to me that we don't have a pay scale. And we don't seem to be making much progress getting that pay scale because we haven't held the heads of the department's feet to the fire.
Okay, I'm in total agreement with everything you just said, so let's stop there. We are working on a pay scale. We can review the tapes if need be, where we had a department head meeting and almost every department head was present, where we identified the need for not only a pay scale to be completed, but also evaluations to be completed. We only have one department who has not. That needs to be discussed between us as far as what we're going to do about that. Everyone else has completed it. I find the new evaluation form to be lacking. That's my personal opinion. This is where we have the discussions. We can't always, you talk about having a deliberation. The deliberation has to happen at the table because we are unable to have it without the public view. So that's part of the whole process. This is only the second year that the county has done evaluations in 15 years or more.
Thank you.
That being said, there's a huge improvement from having no evaluations to at least having an evaluation, which, since you're here, LaDonna, I just wanted to say, I really think that we need to include the self-evaluation portion back into the process. It's hard to get a full picture, not that it has to be exactly the way that it was, but right now, you know, the new evaluation form has the front page for just kind of a check mark system, and then the back page for the supervisor's comments. But when it comes to the employee themselves, they can't really say anything to the commission or about their department that then can be acknowledged specifically. Otherwise, we do have the satisfaction surveys, but they're kind of vague. And then if we're really doing them properly, when we have one satisfaction survey because there's one employee, we know exactly who that is. When we have 20 satisfaction surveys because there are 20 employees, then you don't really know who's saying what, and it's a little misleading maybe. So I would like to see that we just add back in the portion of the self-evaluation. And for example, one department, now they did say a couple of them completed the satisfaction surveys, but the department head didn't turn them in. But practically 3/4 of the department just chose not to do them.
I'm not sure what the self-evaluation looked like before. I guess I figured that in goals and what they needed to work on is their opportunity to say what they wanted to say.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to say anything.
The prior self-evaluation asked these questions, 1 through 6. Summarize changes to your job. What do you like the most? What do you like the least? What improvements would you like to see? What changes would you like to see implemented countywide? So one's within the department, one's with countywide. Leadership, management comments, and then what are your career goals? And it has rate the following, which you did do the rate in the satisfaction
Want
survey.
the questions back. Okay.
Yeah, or at least a few of those questions, because some people did take the time to answer some of those questions in detail. Others did not. I think to the supervisor, it would be beneficial to even see what your employees are saying, because someone who takes the time to really write out their ideas, maybe they're not being heard throughout the year. Maybe it's a part-time employee who just has a sporadic idea that could be implemented that's really time-saving or efficient or cost-saving. A few people did do that, but should they not be rewarded or acknowledged versus just have, kind of like this echoing, unacknowledged comment? I don't mind the format of the new evaluation itself, and I don't even mind receiving the satisfaction survey. I just think it might be helpful. You could combine these questions: what do you like most and least about your job? And then what improvements or changes would you like to see implemented? I think that's the huge one. What would you like to see implemented? Because that's where we get ideas that maybe the supervisor has already been made aware of the employee's ideas, but then when the commission actually reads it and we say, why isn't that being implemented? We at least are afforded the opportunity to question the supervisor. You kind of indicated you didn't have an opinion one way or another about the self-evaluations.
Well, I think they should be, but I
Okay.
would like to see them, when you write them out on a piece of paper, that doesn't do much good. I'd like to see some interviews. And that makes it difficult for the employee, because a lot of times they feel like they're ratting somebody out. But the real, actual meat of the employee evaluation is going to be in a one-on-one, so you can expand it and evaluate what he's doing or she. That's not a problem we can solve. That's not a problem that leadership and management solve in a million years, and it won't be solved here. It's a continuing problem. So, but these forms are a useful tool in that you can see trends in one department. You keep seeing the same thing over and over and over.
Absolutely.
You've probably got a problem.
Absolutely.
But that doesn't let us to examine what they're saying and see what the problem really is, because this is a symptom and not the problem. That's what we'd like to get to, is the problem. So we're making some guesses, educated, but they're still guesses. We have an employee, this is correspondence. This is an employee satisfaction survey, and obviously we don't do that in open session, do we? It's not signed. I don't even know who it's from, which is all right. We'll do that in a minute. I have Lorelei Dole has sent us some correspondence, lots of correspondence. I presume this is a resignation for everybody.
February 12th.
I don't know why she's doing it now.
May I have the
Okay,
envelope?
I'll go ahead and read it.
Oh, you have a copy for you.
Yes, everybody get a copy. Dated 12 February 2020, Dear Lincoln County Commissioners, I am writing to inform you that I must resign my position on the Lincoln County Hospital Board of Trustees. It has come to my attention that the evening meeting time has been changed to a 2 o'clock p.m. meeting time. The board also meeting weekly instead of monthly because of the emergency situation with the solvency of LCH. Because I have 3 foster children who are too young to go to school, the afternoon meeting time is extremely difficult for me. I also have a fourth foster child who arrives at home from school at 3:45 p.m. So 2 p.m. is not a time that I can make work. I am also committed to teaching Ambassador for Christ midweek classes at the Lutheran Church at 3 p.m. on Wednesdays, which is one of the days the board has chosen to meet. I am not as hesitant to leave the board now, as I have met with the new interim administrator and find her informed, experienced, competent, and ready to make the hard decisions and to take actions needed to restore Lincoln County Hospital. I've also been told that other board members are listening to her and working well with her. For these reasons, I feel that my presence is no longer critical on the board. I believe that under her direction, the hospital will be able to move forward effectively. I regret for my own part that I was not able to recognize the problems facing the hospital sooner, nor was I able, once I did perceive the problems, to make those obvious issues evident to other board members. I do feel that I have failed in my responsibility to protect the interests of Lincoln County Hospital for the good of the community. This is another reason that I do not feel it is appropriate for me to remain on the board. I have spoken to a couple of people who I feel may be informed and competent, and it is my hope that they and others will come forward to serve on the board. I have also spoken with the interim administrator and expressed to her my desire to continue to be of assistance in any way possible. I encourage you, as you address new trustees to the LCH board, to be sure that they know exactly what is expected of them. I feel that our board was under the impression that we worked for the CEO, that the CEO was under our supervision or direction. It would be advantageous for board members to know exactly and very specifically what is expected and allowed as they serve the hospital and the community. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to serve on the hospital board. I have learned a great deal about many things. I hope and pray that you will have success in protecting and restoring the hospital for the people of Lincoln County. Sincerely, Lorelei Dahl.
I move to accept the resignation of hospital trustee board member Lorelei Dole.
Second. The motion has been made to accept the resignation of Lorelei Dahl of the hospital board and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Resignation is accepted. Shall we do the minutes and get all this out of the way?
Yes.
I have a correction for the minutes.
Okay.
Again, on the hospital board, on the minutes of 18 February 2020, under the Rodney Broberg thing,
I had a question about that too.
I would ask add the sentence, Mr. Broberg withdrew his application for reappointment to the board.
I agree with the correction.
I have nothing other. Does that work for you?
Did we did we approve the $25 that day? I was looking for that. Did we approve the $25 per load?
Yes, we did. And I think,
Is that in here?
I don't know, Jennifer put it in the RMA contract though,
Okay.
at $25.
So it is, if it's part of that, then that's
It's part
fine.
of the
because-
RMA, yes.
Okay. I think that was my only question.
I move the commission approve the minutes for February 18 and February 20 as amended.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Motion been made and seconded to approve the minutes of February 20 and February 18. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved.
As a side note, the 20th was the second meeting of the week, just where we did 99% executive session to do evaluations.
This survey is unsigned, and there's no indication where it comes from.
That was the whole premise that we
I
did.
know, but
yeah.
it's addressed to the Lincoln County boss. Did we dare read it?
Yeah, if it was
No, I
sent
mean,
as mail, I think
If
it's.
it's addressed to the boss, who's the boss?
Oh, well, you're the, what's it called?
Uh,
Vice chair. So go
I
have
will
at her.
try to do this. It's a little hard to read. On the ratings, and these are 1 through 10. Compensation to employee depends on the department, gave us a 4. Opportunity advancement, you have to be born into it, 1. Benefits, 4. Friendly environment work, 5. Training, 3. Performance evaluation, 1. Supervision, 5. Job security, 8. Flexibility in job performance, 8. Overall job satisfaction, 5. And then the employee morale, describe general employee morale. As a general rule, very poor. Absolutely no sense of a unified group. Any recommendation to improve employee morale? Comparison between employment management to understand the other's concern. Guidance. Are you given proper guidance to perform your job? My supervisor is quite knowledgeable, but doesn't know squat. The boss doesn't know squat, whoever the boss is. Are you given proper feedback on your work? No. One person is to advise too many employees. Would you change the procedure of performance evaluations? If yes, how would you change it? A boss to be as knowledgeable as a supervisor. Be smart enough to be the boss rather than I am right because I am the boss. Training. What additional training for employees do you think would be beneficial? Communication skills. Technology. What additional technology do you think could optimize your job? State-of-the-art facilities that the county can't afford. Benefits. What benefits offered do you think are valuable? I would have never started work for the county without their benefit package. No additional benefit requested or asked for in his evaluation. Flexibility. Are you satisfied with the flexibility given to perform your job? Sometimes it is too flexible. Need consistency. What additional flexibility would be helpful for you to perform your job? Award employees for job well done. Supervisor. Do you think you are supervised adequately? Not always. Too many responsibilities. Do you think your supervisor is adequately aware of your concern? Not always. Too many problems to solve. What improvements do you think your supervisor could make? Expect some supervision help from a superior. Miscellaneous. Is there anything else that you think needs to be improved? An opportunity to be proud of one's job, not be a sore or hanger-on for the county. Feel like it really matters.
Finger.
Yeah, sore finger, I guess, and our hangnail for the county. All right. Do you have any comments related to the county commissioner's leadership? I think one of the commissioners feels that it is her purpose to promote strife and disagreement between towns, employees, and departments. Again, this is an example of the things that should be discussed with the employee. I'd like to know a lot more about what's going on. While this is information, I don't know that it's usable information to anybody. Right?
Well, I'm not sure how you can evaluate your benefits at a 4 and then say you would have never started the job if it wasn't for the benefits package, and then say there's no other benefits that you wish to see. That's
yeah.
If that indicates anything about the overall temperament or
Inconsistent
paradigm,
and incoherent.
I'm sure it's my fault.
Have we any other communications you know of?
Yes. So we had an email from the clerk. It says, what I had done is calculate all of the evaluations. On the bottom of every evaluation, the department head gave a suggested raise amount, and for each department, it was going to be particular to each employee. So I was taking the old pay resolution from what Dawn had given me for their current rate of pay, and then adding on, doing math to make sure we got calculated according to each department. And then Dawn expressed a concern. She said the highway department exceeds the $10 per hour increase that we're budgeted for in the 2020 budget. Because what she's saying is we allotted for 50 cents per capita. And then she said, since you do not have a pay plan, are you implementing a pay plan that you have not adopted? So to answer that question, yes, the commission has received a pay plan from the highway department. In fact, that's the only department for which we have received an actual pay plan, and it's numbered. There are 9 positions or steps for each operator, mechanic, office,
But it's
bridge.
inadequate in that it doesn't tell you how to go from step 3 to step 4.
You wanted an explanation, and I think that needs to be, we didn't instruct that though. We just asked for a pay
Or you
plan.
can come in and say, I'm a 4, he's a 5, how come he's a 5 and not a 4?
I understand that, but this is what we were given. We were given Saline
yeah,
counties, okay? And then we were given one similar to this for our county.
Yeah,
So then what we were given are all the employee evaluations and their current
pay scale, what they recommend. for
Right,
new pay.
exactly. And so that would be inclusive of everybody's raise,
Yep.
which of all the employees totaled, it needs to fit in the salary line item, which I did the math and it does.
And I've asked Brendan to complete that, and give me those gradations, and he hadn't done it yet.
You mean to give the explanation for
Yes,
what
yeah,
qualifies each?
What makes it 4, what makes it 5, and what.
Well, in his defense, I mean, he has 9
Well, I know
items
that, yeah,
per
I know.
position, so he at least has the numbers attached to them. We have not received a pay scale from anywhere else. So what I did was took the pay scale implementation of each employee and what number they were ranked in their position, and then attached that dollar amount to their name and forwarded that list to the clerk, who then forwarded it to the HR. So when we do our new resolution for the year, each employee will have a dollar amount listed next to them, and now within their department, it will have a ranking. So if you're at a 5, you know there's option to get up to a 9. What we have not figured out though is what the total dollar amount would be if everyone were to max out, which is
So,
not necessarily.
Has this board taken formal action to approve that
It has
that
not,
rate?
it has not,
That was my question.
yeah, it has not.
No, but no one, but none of us asked him to revise the pay scale. I mean, the pay scale that he came up with was what we asked him to do, so.
And at the bottom of the evaluations, did he not put the 50 cent across the board?
No,
Like,
he
the
gave,
total of the $10 that he had to work with, like the rest of us were told to do?
I'm confused by what you mean.
On that January 6th meeting, we were asked to make a suggestion based upon the 50 cent that we gave. So if we had a department of 5, that was $2.50 that we would allocate based upon the evaluation to each employee, and it was up to us to answer to those employees why they might have gotten 25 cents and another person got $1. And then we were also supposed to, and I admit I have not done that yet, I kind of have not had time, but we were also told at that point in time when we submitted the evaluations to also present a pay plan that you guys could consider in the future when you adopt a pay plan. That's what I understood.
Mhm.
If I misunderstood, that's something different.
No, you're exactly right. I'm not
Okay.
sure what the discrepancy is.
Well, there's $17.79 worth of raises given to the highway department versus the $10 that was allotted for it. That's my question.
So there were
That you emailed me.
right, I emailed you all the
There's
implementation.
$17.79 worth of raises compared to the $10.
Right, well, as far as I'm aware, that's the only department that actually,
But wouldn't we have a pay plan countywide and not just with one department?
no, each department was responsible to come up with their own pay plan. They have their own budgets. We've already approved 2020 budgets.
I did
So-
not understand that. I thought we were
guess-
presenting suggestions.
We have to have a
Yes,
countywide
I
pay
didn't think it
plan.
was for this
No, it's
evaluation rate.
a countywide thing.
We were actually, you're the one that suggested implementing the new handbook in March, which was going to have the new pay plan attached. So why would that not coincide with the new pay rates? I'm confused.
It would, but we
Okay.
haven't done either one of those things yet.
No, but that's what's on the table. We only have one department having fulfilled all the obligations, except for your new request to now give a description per ranking. And so Dawn, your question about the dollar amount, the highway department's the only department that I'm aware that consolidated positions and reduced the amount of employees. So that being said,
Seriously. I think my office did.
I'm confused. I thought
I think I have been working with 2 employees now for over a year and a half. Maybe even longer than that. I'm not gonna argue. You do what you want to. My other question is are you seriously going to give a large increase to somebody who hasn't worked for us for 6 months?
I don't know what that means.
You have an employee listed on your email that you provided me with wage increases for an employee that has not been here 6 months, has only been here since October. Because if that's the case, then maybe I need to reconsider whether or not I would give somebody else new a wage increase.
Well, I guess it depends on the explanation of the position or what was taken on as far as,
I'm not sure why I'm
Jobs.
the only person that's concerned with this, but I feel like if you're gonna do a raise and you budgeted 50 cents, you should do a raise that's 50 cents. Then you
That's
should
not what
adopt-
we were doing, though.
Stop, can I just finish? And then you should adopt a policy, if you want to do a pay plan that's countywide, then you should adopt a pay plan. And then at that point in time, have an open discussion with the public and then grant raises based upon, because, you know.
We are adopting a pay plan that's been discussed now for several months. So your premise is
Then let me see the pay plan that you've presented, or that you're adopting.
we only have one department that's completed it. It was
But-
the department head's task to present a pay plan, not mine.
You asked us to present a recommendation. It was not, as far as I was concerned, a set in stone pay scale.
Well, we can't just pull numbers out of thin air.
No,
Your
okay.
department is responsible for your
Let's-
department.
Let's review this and go on. We do not have a countywide pay plan. We've tasked each department to come in with their recommendation. We have not seen those. We can't create a plan until we get all of those in, evaluate them against the budget and the line items we have. Until that happens, we can't approve any kind of a pay plan. We've approved some raises, and I'm not sure we've done that correctly, but in any case.
Wait a minute.
We
Please-
don't, we
please
have
explain
approved
that.
raises, that we had voted on previously.
But please explain your just most recent comment. We've approved raises and you're not sure we've done that correctly. Could you explain that? I'm confused there.
We have approved some raises back, in the last year, did we not?
In
The
2019.
Are we up to date,
In
with
2009
all of our raises for last year?
For 2019, you gave, yes,
We gave 25 cents in
Okay.
the beginning of the year, which
And
didn't
then-
take effect
and then-
until what, March or something.
January 26th.
And then we got
Did it
another
come
one effective 26 December, is that
Then you
correct?
gave, no,
No, there
you
was
gave
one in
the-
August.
you
In
gave the
August.
other
Alright.
25
Retroactive
cents
back
In
to-
August, all right.
countywide.
All right.
About, you guys have not reviewed, like what you sent me as an individual. Yes, you sent it from the commissioners, but when did you guys have discussion over what you were gonna give people raises?
When we did evaluations.
Okay, so now what I think you need to do is you need to say, I move to approve whatever the raise is.
I'm not ready
for
to
each
do that
individual.
until we have everyone, which you indicated, and I asked this morning, did we get one of the departments that we're missing? So we need to have that actual resolution.
Exactly. But then I was asked, why can't I get payroll in? Why can't I adjust the wages?
Well, I was ready to say that everyone who requested wages for their departments, if the commission agrees, I never said this was my choice. If the commission agrees, we can approve everyone except for the department who didn't turn their valuations in. Why should everyone else get penalized for one department not doing everything on time? We did this last year. In fact, I think LaDonna had it in the 2018 year end and then didn't get everything until January, and we only gave half, and then we only gave the other half across the board, which I voted against in the middle of the year.
But do you guys not need to review that resolution? Have us give us time to prepare the resolution, review the resolution, so you know what raises you're giving everybody?
Yes, you do.
If this commission was contesting what a department head said, we were gonna have that conversation in the evaluation. I mean, why else would we have a department head tell us what their recommendation, if the department head's gonna tell us, well, I recommend 50 cents for this person, I recommend 10 cents for that person, yada yada. If we were having a discrepancy, that's why we looked through each individual evaluation with the department head. If we saw that the evaluation was negative, and then they said, but no, I wanna give this person $1, we would have had that conversation when we were with the department head, not now. I mean, none of us had any contest to what the department heads had recommended to us. We asked them if it was in their budget. We asked them, according to their evaluation, were they getting a raise commensurate to their work? That was the conversation. I'm a little confused as to why that's a problem.
I'm a little confused because I was sent an email from the LC Commissioner's website telling me what the new pay was going to be from the LC Commissioner's email account on Friday when there was no meeting in session.
I asked this board if I could take the computer to do that. I asked permission and they said yes. I implemented every single number that the department heads gave me. I did not come, if you're implying that I personally came up with anything, you're sadly mistaken. And I asked permission to be able to forward all the numbers that we have, according to all the evaluations that were done. In fact, you sent me a picture of the sheriff's department.
Because you asked me for it.
Exactly, of
when
course
they
I
brought
would.
it over. But
Of course I would. We implemented the numbers according to what each department head gave us.
and every department that I am aware of, but I haven't seen all the evaluations, which needs to be given to Sarah so that she can file them properly. All of the ones that I'm aware of were asking for the 50-cent raise and nothing more.
Well, then you're mistaken, because everyone was working within their own budget. You're not in control of the other department heads. I'm sorry.
I've never said that I was.
Well, for you to
but
imply,
I will not enter payroll in until there is action by this Board of County Commissioners.
absolutely, I didn't ask
Okay.
you to enter payroll in without action of the Board of the Commissioners.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't. I asked you if it's going to
You even
get.
offered to help.
Yes, because I asked you if everyone is going to get their new pay rate this payroll, which is
It
why.
is impossible, because I told you guys on the 6th of January that I needed that by January 18th.
I'd like to see a copy of the message you sent Friday.
Wait, yeah, it's in the email. I can forward it to your personal email.
I wish you would, because I've never seen anything from that computer yet.
Every number that I gave was according to anything that the department head gave to me. And if anyone else on this board wants to do the clerical work, I'd be glad to do
I just
that.
want to see it, that's all.
I will forward it to you.
All right. Let's press on. We're down to Jonathan Schale. What have you today, sir?
Well, I got the bids for the boiler room door,
Okay,
and did take a few pictures so you can see the extent of the, and we did go back on the fire marshal's thing, and Greg was cited for this in 2017 and again in 2018,
you don't see a problem,
and
do you?
it was never brought to the county commissioners to ever have been replaced back in. So
This is the door that you talked about last
yes,
time?
from what I understand, the nursing home received a deficiency back in 2017, and then again in 2018 in regards to the corrosion on that door. That is a fire door. That goes into the boiler room, which has to be a fire rated frame, fire rated door. So
Where's that moisture coming from?
that is what needs to be repaired, and that's why
From the boiler itself?
no, that is actually coming through a crack in the wall that's
Outside.
behind.
Okay.
If you look at the one picture there, you can see this one. Right here, you can see where the concrete is separating.
Yeah.
And I had another picture, but I guess I didn't get it printed or captured from the printer. But the concrete is actually separating up through here, which the water is running down right there. Which
It's
the
outside right there.
that's inside the building. That goes to the tunnel that goes underneath all of the east end of the facility.
So it's
is where
coming
that
down
water
the
is
tunnel?
coming from. It's coming down through there. We have not gotten back up in there to find out exactly where, but we did see that right there near where that door frame is, there is a significant amount of water coming from down a crack, which the first guys that put in the bid didn't bid out repairing that because they said we would have to get someone to do it. But the second guys that bid this out said that they would repair the concrete and all. So, let me get this.
Has nobody ever been down there before? That didn't happen yesterday.
This has been cited multiple times by the fire marshal.
He said that it was on the thing and it wasn't brought to the commission,
it-
which
it's
I
never
figured
been-
this would have been part of the entire replacement of all the fire doors. I
It
thought
should
the
have been,
assessment
yes.
was for all of them.
It should have been, but it was never added to it.
Okay.
And why it was not.
Did
when-
DH Pace finish everything they were?
They had to reorder doors. They got shipped the incorrect doors, and they.
So can they just add that on?
They could, and I've got a bid for them, but their bid does not include the repairing of the concrete that would need to be done. I got a bid for, this is from DH Pace, And then I also got a bid for y'all from Topeka Foundry, in regards to that. The bid from Topeka Foundry includes the repair of the concrete around that frame.
So that's the $1,100 difference.
Yes.
So is DH Pace gonna come back with another bid to replace the concrete, or?
We would have to get a subcontractor to replace the concrete. With Topeka Foundry, they'll just do it themselves.
Where's the notes down there?
So it's about $1,000 more to have them do the concrete work
Yes,
as well?
and that's because the concrete down there's got to be repaired. There's a big chunk that's approximately 14 to 16 inches long where it's separated out. And
Where's the water coming from? Is it rainwater coming down the
it's
side
coming
of the
down through the
foundation?
crack that they're going to repair
Well, where's it coming from before that?
from under the building. I'm guessing, if it were my guess, I would have to say that probably that somewhere along the way, those lines that used to run underneath the building they used to run the drain off, and it went under the building and out to the sewer. I'm guessing somewhere along the lines that line has broken, and so when it comes down through underneath the building, it's leaking out.
Well, don't we need to fix that too?
I'm not certain
If you don't-
how,
If you don't fix that, then you're just putting a patch in here and your concrete's gonna leak some more.
I'm not certain how extensive that would be to get that replaced, because that's a whole lot of pipe that goes way underneath the
I
facility.
understand that, but if you're gonna
It
keep
doesn't
running
fix the
water
problem,
Right,
is
I
what
know.
he's saying. Well, where is it coming from the outside into the tunnel?
Well, what we think is that what we think when the Topeka Foundry guys came, that one side of the building where this is actually at, the ground slopes down to the building. It doesn't slope up; it slopes actually down. And so we're thinking that all of that water is gathering up right there, and then just coming and following itself down
But what
into
is
the
the
tunnel.
entrance point? Is the
That's what I'm saying. It's coming into the tunnel
where?
from right there where the
where the dirt meets the wall.
dirt meets the wall. It's not.
It's funneled right
It's-
into
So it
it,
needs
so.
some
It's- instead of flowing
landscaping.
away,
Yeah,
yes,
the slope
yes.
is all wrong.
Yes, the slope along
Well, can you follow up on that too? Because
that
this,
I can fix
this is-
myself. That I
okay.
intend to take care of myself.
Okay.
That the actual work around the building to actually fix that to keep the water from coming in, I'll deal with that myself. I know exactly what to do in regards to that. I had the same issue at my house and had to deal with it. So it's not, that part's
Well,
not a
then,
big deal.
do you want to wait to make a decision? I don't see how we're gonna get a separate contract for $1,000. I think we need to go
I
with
would
the
go
one that.
with the Topeka Foundry, they have a complete deal. If you
Thank
get
you
both
for
of them to do
bringing
the
in
same
two
thing,
bids.
same thing.
I appreciate that. I move to approve the bid for Topeka Foundry Commercial Door Company as requested by Lincoln Park Manor for repair to the boiler room door.
For $4,600, whatever
Okay.
dollars.
Can we have a copy of that?
motion.
Oh,
Yeah.
you can have that copy.
Okay.
I made a copy
Wanna
of each of it.
s-
No, keep that over the files, it's close enough.
I have a
need it.
copy of each of it there for you.
You need a
so-
copy of it? A motion's been made and seconded to
Um,
have Topeka Foundry fix that door and the concrete work.
This is,
Just a minute.
Any other discussion on that? And competent with that, you're gonna fix the landscape so that
Yes.
that fixes, all right?
and I'm also gonna get up in the tunnel and see if there's any other places that need to be sealed up and taken care of.
All right.
so.
All right, any other? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed.
This is the contract from Pryor who takes care of the sprinkler system there at the nursing home. Apparently, it needs to be redone this year, so there is that.
While I have you here, we did go ahead and approve for 1 year the new elevator company.
Mhm.
So you can contact them if you want. I think you had met with them already.
Yeah, he
Do
already
you have
came
his
to see me.
information?
Yes, I did.
Okay, then you're good. We did approve it, excuse me, for 1 year, at the rate, and I think, I don't think I printed off that, but we have the same company here for the courthouse now,
Okay.
so,
Can you send me that
Yes,
information,
I
because
will.
I've got to keep that in the file,
and
because
I had
when
an email kicked back from you, tell me where it's.
Jonathan, JONATHAN .Schale, that's CHALE, at Lincoln Park Manor,
All spelled out,
KS,
KS
KS.com.
dot com. Okay,
We were having some problems with our email addresses here a couple weeks ago, so,
I tried to send one a while back, but I think it was not that. I
okay.
think it was something different. So I will forward you the contract for the company, and you have their,
Yes, because I have to have the contract on hand to show the
sure,
OSHA people when they come through.
sure. And then enclosed are 2 copies in the inspection contract for the annual fire sprinkler inspections. This is the company that you have been using, is there?
That is the company that has been being used for years and years and years. They're the ones that put in the sprinkler system there, when we had the add-on. They're the company that installed it, and they're the company that has maintained it since. That is not who originally put in the first fire sprinklers up there, but that is
Okay,
the new
this is for
company.
you, that's not
Are they
ours.
doing a satisfactory job as best you can tell?
Oh, actually,
Yes,
that's for Dawn, because we
Yeah,
own
because you
the-
guys have to fill out
Yeah.
a lot of this, so I will pass that to you.
It's $350 to provide an inspection, including physical, visual, written inspection for the entire building pertaining to automatic sprinkler system. It will be performed during the month of August. I suppose this is for 1 year? It doesn't-
Yes, it is 1 year. So they sent it out in January, but apparently sometime this year the current contract
Do you
expires.
know what the last price was? Is this the same price?
It's the same price.
Is it?
It has never changed. As far as I know, it's never changed.
Well, I guess I don't have a problem unless you think there's another company there are no local companies, I suppose.
No, there aren't. That's the closest one around. And the company that we used to use did a very terrible job of getting the inspections and things done on time, which was why we went with Pryor. And we also kept Pryor after the county approved the putting of the remainder of the sprinkler system in the east end. They're the ones that got the bid and did that won the bid back then, and then they're the ones that we kept for the inspection afterwards because
Okay.
it's
I
their
move
system.
to approve the contract with Pryor for $350 for the annual sprinkler inspection.
Second.
There's that. That goes with that.
Motion's been made and approved to retain Pryor as our fire system inspector. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. This got a signature tab
Give that to
on it,
Dawn.
Yes, please.
The other thing is the upgrade to the call system there. Did you guys get information from them? They were supposed to contact you.
I have
Not
seen
us.
anything.
Have you? Okay, they were supposed to send information to you all because we, after that was had been approved, we went and we had talked to this INA, and to do what Alliance was going to do to the upgrade, the INA would have been over 40 grand. And so we contacted back Alliance which they were supposed to send you that information, because in order for Alliance to upgrade that system, they require a down payment.
How much was Alliance asking?
This is the original bid.
Considerably less than that 40, wasn't it?
Yes, this was, Alliance's bid this is the original bid that you guys approved, which was, make sure this is the right one.
13,000.
Yes,
That sounds right.
13,000.
But you mean they want a down payment before they perform the work?
Yes, ma'am, they do. That
Okay.
is standard
So-
procedure,
Okay, so we're approving to cut them a check. Does it say how much?
75% is what I wrote at the top of the invoice, yes.
75% up front?
That was what I said too. So, that was what I asked them. I was like, for real? But yes, that is what they said. So,
Why is there a $30,000 difference in those? There's gotta
because with the other company, they would have to take out all of Alliance's equipment and put in their own stuff,
be-
because
so
their
Alliance
stuff,
is upgrading what they have. where
yes,
they can.
Alliance is upgrading what they have, and they can use their own call boxes. But INA uses
Was
a
a
whole
total
different
replacement
system.
of everything.
Yes, they use a whole different system, and so it's not an upgrade to what we have, it's a
That's just
total
such a
change out.
wide variance that calls to question why, okay.
Yeah, it's because it's a total replacement of every single thing, instead of just coming in and putting in a new computer and putting in the new software and updating the relays and doing all the things that
Well,
need to be
we already
updated.
approved it, so I suppose we don't really need to do anything other than request that a check be sent.
So,
right?
Yep.
Yeah, we
Did they give you a
approved it to
dollar amount? It's
13,000.
like 10,000, I guess.
Whatever 75% of that amount is what she said. And she was going to, I had asked her,
Almost 10,000.
I had asked her to email you and Dawn both with that information, which obviously she didn't. So
What email did you give her?
I gave her the email address that you send me stuff from, and then I
Yeah,
gave her
I
Dawn's email
I
address.
don't have it yet.
Okay. Well, that was over 3 weeks ago
Do we need
that
to wait on
information.
that?
No, if
We've
you
already
just
approved the
give me
bill,
that-
right?
We already approved it, so I guess it's just a matter of sending the check.
I don't think I ever saw the bids.
They were supposed to have sent it.
Well, we only got it verbally when,
Right.
what's Dana's last name?
Rice.
When Mrs. Rice was here, so.
So, and then we were talking to you all about the camera system and doing the changing the doors up there at the facility. And they had been talking, the Grace team had been talking about adding mechanical locks. Out of the question totally, because that requires the bringing in of a architect and getting approval from the fire marshal's office in order to even consider putting in magnet locks in the facility.
You'd have to redo door frames and doors.
You'd have to redo the door frames, you have to redo the doors, you have to, there's an extensively huge amount of stuff. Whereas if we just change out the actual, what you would call the controls and the actual alarm mechanisms on the doors, it would be significantly less money. And I do have both of those bids on the,
And by doing that, we'll meet all the OSHA and safety requirements, right?
yes. I did get, this is the Alliance's thing for the call system, or the door system, as well as the cameras that they were wanting. And make sure that they're both. Which one did I hand you? Is that INA or is that
This is
Alliance?
Alliance I have.
Okay, and then here's the INA one. And our thought on that was it would probably be beneficial to stick with the same company on all of it, all the way around. Whatever we do of that, because Alliance will tie that door monitoring system actually into the call light system, which goes over the nurses' pagers. That's for the doors, and then there's also that bit for the cameras that they were talking about.
Any chance they'd give us a little rebate for doing the whole thing at once?
I'm not sure. That would have to be something we would have to approach with
So
Alliance.
the total for Alliance,
There's two different numbers there. One is for cameras and one is for the doors.
okay, so,
At the bottom, let me see. Let me look at my paper here. If you flip it over on the back here, is the total for the WonderGuard control
okay, so
system
we're
for the
looking
doors.
at 13,926 versus 14,833.
Yes.
That's comparative for both. They're both
Let me
doing
see,
the
which
same
one are you
thing.
looking at?
The INA is the
Okay,
14.
INA is, one of those is for cameras, one of those is for the Wonder Control.
But this is also the same thing.
Yes,
Yeah.
one is from INA and one is from Alliance.
Right, but they're both
Okay.
doing the same
Yes,
thing.
both exactly the same
Yeah.
on their setup. So,
Are we moving forward with that at this
I
time?
think, yeah, I think we programmed that, that's part of our stuff.
the biggest thing, I mean, the biggest thing that we really need to take care of is the door system.
Yeah.
I mean, the camera thing was something, is a want, but the door system is huge. Because the technology that we have currently,
But the doors aren't finished yet, correct? We're still waiting.
this is
on-
exterior doors, this isn't talking about fire doors. This is the exterior alarm system that
The WonderGuard
Yes,
is,
that
okay,
lets
just,
us know
it's just for the outside.
when the residents proceed out those doors.
Right, and the cameras are on the exterior of the building?
The cameras are both interior and exterior, but they're in
And is
hallway
this for
areas.
monitors too?
Yes, that's all of that.
If we put this off for another 30 days, what are the implications?
As far as getting in trouble with anybody, nobody is. We're not going to get in trouble for it, but
It's an upgrade,
Yeah.
in my opinion,
Yeah.
and we have to decide, are we doing that at the cost of the county or at the cost of the tenant? Because, I think we were requesting an RFP for the end of this month, right? Have you
Right.
heard anything on that?
No, and, but I would think within the next 30 days, we ought to have something on the street. And we'd have a definitive answer certainly within 60.
Well, my opinion is if we do this, it makes our building that much more
appealing.
enticing, right?
Yeah,
But if we don't, it's up to the tenant to implement these things, which they can't necessarily take with them when they go, so.
but if we wait and let the tenant do it, that relieves us of the responsibility.
Right, of any kind of, yeah,
So
I mean,
I would propose we wait at least 30 days to see how we can help our.
let's look at the RFP first,
Okay.
and then could you just keep these and?
Yes, I can. You guys
Okay.
wanted that brought up, so I will keep it on hand and then we'll see.
No, I appreciate the bids, that's excellent to have
I'd
two
ask
numbers.
Alliance if they come down a little bit if we accept them both, just as a what if.
Yeah,
Sure.
that- I can do that. We have, the facility has been used in Alliance, since the 1960s.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when that building was originally put up, Alliance has been the, monitor for everything since, so.
And we have no problem, they've done a good job for it, I know.
That's everything
But,
I had.
Okay,
Thank you, sir.
thank
Thank you.
you.
Time for the next Stuckey, who's next? It says here, Miss Sarah.
Hello.
I have two potential employees that were presented to me for the EMS department. Both of them are through the enrollment or I guess our pre-employment
Were they
process.
presented through the department head to you?
Yes.
Okay.
With him not here this week,
Wait a minute, don't pass it over.
with him not here, I didn't know if you wanted me to present them to get officially approved, or if you wanted to wait for him. Because one of them, I believe, has.
Okay,
I've been
I move
in
to
the-
recess into executive session
Perfect.
for 10 minutes for the purpose of discussing employment applications for the EMS department pursuant to KSA 754319-2B. Number, employer
I had that here, yes.
negotiations. Do you have that sheet? Employer
No, but it's,
negotiations. Number,
4319 2B1.
no, not one, because they're not employees yet. It's employer-employee negotiations. I want to say it's
sorry,
number 3.
yeah.
To reconvene in the commission room with the HR officer and the commission that's present.
Second. It's been moved and seconded that we go into executive session for the purpose of talking about employee application for how many minutes?
10.
Couple hours?
It-
10
I'm
minutes?
just moving something together. Second.
All in favor,
Or
say
did you
aye.
second?
Yep.
Okay.
10 minutes.
Yes.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. With any luck, you'll have everything ready to go, and he just says do it.
And would you hang out here before, well, the highway department is here? And, okay.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
And I want to tell you, as I did this morning, that we are tickled to death the way you took care of that.
Thank you.
I mean, I was really pretty pleased.
Better to deal with
I
it.
mean, you're doing your job, but damn, that doesn't happen around here a lot. You know about that. We'll talk about it later.
Okay. I know we're running a little bit behind, I'm sorry, but it looks like we have you guys on the schedule next. Are you in a hurry to leave? Tanner?
I think we're gonna meet with the wind farm this afternoon.
Okay, because we have you guys all on the schedule right now until noon. Would you mind if I make utilization of the HR before we talk about that portion? Okay. I move to recess into executive session for 10 minutes for the purpose of discussing employee evaluations for the highway department pursuant to KSA 794319-2B, number 1, personnel matters of non-elected personnel, to reconvene in the commission room with the HR officer and director of the highway department and the commission present.
I second that. Any discussion? It's been moved and seconded to go into executive session for 15 minutes, did you say?
What did I say?
You did not. Oh, 10 minutes, yes, you
10
did.
10 minutes. I think that's fine.
To discuss personal matters of non-elected personnel to reconvene here in 10 minutes. To be present would be the HR, the highway department,
Director,
and the director and the commission.
yes.
Did the county clerk need to be here?
Nope.
No county clerk. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's just a personal note.
Did you talk to him?
I've talked to Kenny, I haven't talked to Gordon, but Kenny said that he's not aware at all, just things did not work out.
So this was someone else. And
Excuse me?
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah. All right,
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's holler at Tanner, he's still got a smile on his face.
I always got a smile on my face.
All right, where are we at in the schedule? We're due for, I think, 11 o'clock. We're overdue for Brendan and Tanner, we'll take them and go some more. You're due at 11:30, Tanner.
Okay.
That's alright, I'll be quick.
Guess that means his name is Jack B, doesn't it?
Jack be nimble.
All the jokes today.
So the first thing I had, I don't know previously if the gravel agreements, the commission had signed them before sending them out.
Gravel agreements.
Yes, so, cause our pits are due again.
He, the last director did bring them in for signatures after he had okayed them with the landowners.
Okay.
Not that it matters the order to me.
I didn't know if you wanted to sign them before we mailed them out, or after we received them back, if you wanted to sign them.
That doesn't matter.
If they aren't being edited, I don't see why it doesn't.
The only
matter.
edits were what
We
we discussed
approved the
earlier,
new-
the changes to the pay rates, for the
Yeah.
royalty rates.
How many do you have?
There's 8 or 9 in there, I believe,
Okay.
currently have active.
It would be better for you to execute them after the landowner has signed, so you have a copy on file.
Okay,
of
That
the
works.
executed agreement.
do you have some sort of assessment of how much? Is-
Materials in each one.
Do you have like an individual assessment of each pit for?
So I have that on some, others, we're going through, I have an operator right now going through our old gravel maps to look at, to see if there were further reserves out there.
Okay. That might be nice to file with them, is
Yes.
kind of what we have planned or how much material's there.
Yep.
Are we signing, is it a 1 year?
That's what they've been, 1 year or 2 years.
I know we gave them the option before.
Yeah, so
Okay.
this one was just, you can change, you can make it 5 years if you want, because the ending, it's
On your
left
map,
blank. Yes, sir.
you've got gravel pits,
Right
two of them
here,
up in here.
I've got 4 of them right there.
Yeah. Does that mean that this whole area, as a mine engineer, is that an alluvial, deposit there?
This deposits up here is iron sandstone
Yeah,
and iron pyrite.
okay,
So that is, this deposit right here, you would find right here in the center area.
okay.
So that is an alluvial deposit. The only real glacial deposit you have is right here south on 14, right there. That's more of a glacial deposit. This is a segmented alluvial deposit.
Is there an opportunity for an expanded mining operation in either one of those? I'm not saying we have pits now, but sometime in the future.
In that general vicinity
Yeah.
for the similar material?
Yeah. So if you look at the elevation, the contour maps,
Yeah.
you'll find where that material is found similarly in same contour lines,
Yeah, it
same
looked like
elevations
it to
throughout
me
that.
out there. I just wondered about
Yep.
that.
So if you go and look up a USGS topo map, up until the mid 80s, they included gravel pits on them.
Yeah,
So if you go back and look at one from the 50s and the 60s, it'll have old pits. And that has the elevation where they're at and their location, so you can usually tie that in to find where there's more material.
you got a map like that? I think I do, if you don't.
Yep.
Alright.
So
Okay.
we have pits right there, we've got one right there, and we've got 2 right there. This one is below the water line. I don't know if there's much material left. So I've got material here and material in the southwest.
So potentially we got.
I
Already,
need
you
gravel,
have
we
material
just haven't-
already extracted,
Yeah.
is what you're saying?
We've got open pits, 2 right there, 1 there, and then 4 up here.
Yeah.
1 here is closed out. It's out of material. 1 here has a little bit left, but I really have nothing in this central swath of pits that are currently open. And that's where we're trying to look to find pits. Because I know there's more pits that could be opened up here, but I already have. That's one of the criticisms that's been to the county is that they'd open a pit up and then never touch anything or haul anything out of it.
That's why we're doing the $300
Yes.
Yes.
ante up.
So that way, the onus is on me to get in there, get the material out, get their property back to them.
On that subject, I had a question this morning. Someone called me and asked the road just west of town here.
Hmm.
What is that, north that goes west? Is that North Street or
It goes west of
From Viv's to.
the old Fort, yeah, that's
Yes.
North Street.
Okay. How recently was that done? That was a couple months ago, correct?
Something
They
like
might have
that.
done some patching on it, yes.
So someone wanted to know where that material came from. It was a positive remark, just saying it
Oh,
looked good.
the
And
material
What-
further past where the blacktop ends?
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
so that was a lot of bolty material. Bolty
but we
pit,
closed that.
it's out of material, yes.
Okay.
Bolty material mixed with some of our screening, the farm screens like we've done in other places. And a lot of that was
And
just
did they just
regraded
mix
shoulders.
that on the surface? And,
On the surface
Mhm.
and pulled the shoulders of that road.
Okay.
Then the other couple things I had, so I went through with Beverly, it was alright, I was gonna submit some numbers to them. Basically looking at it with, giving them both options, if they want ditches graded, pulled, road graded and spread, they're looking between 5 to 6 hours per city block with 3 people each.
In Beverly.
Yeah. And talking with operators, I brought my Barnard operators down there last Thursday to look at the road situation out there. They recommended just sloping what we can and spreading material, which would be about 1 to 2 hours per city
As
block.
opposed to reshaping ditches.
Cutting ditches, we don't even know how utilities are buried out there, and cutting brand new ditches, you'd have tubes buried.
I don't think you
It'd
can cut
be-
ditches in there.
That's how I felt
Yeah.
too. And I brought them in because my hours seemed high per block, and I wanted to make sure I wasn't being unreasonable.
So what's the total?
So what I'm gonna present to them is it's gonna be 5 to 6 hours per block if they want everything.
I think
For
if
3
you
people,
crown it,
minimum
make
of 3
sure the
people.
ditches
If we-
drains all you can do.
Yeah, if we crown and spread the material, that'd be 1 to 2 hours per
Yeah,
block.
that's, I don't think,
And that way they can choose
yeah.
more, half the town one year, half the town the next year. Because there are some roads where it doesn't need much, but there are roads that are in, it'd be more than 5 to 6, but just getting an average for the
So
whole
where
area.
are we on time donation as far as, I mean, I know they were gonna pay for time, but if they, let's say you had people that would volunteer to come in on a Friday, do you have anyone interested to do that?
I haven't brought it to them yet, because I
Okay.
need to get
Okay.
from them.
You're just
what they're
still
gonna-
assessing?
Yes.
Okay.
And they're blacktop, any, have you looked at that?
Yeah, we went and looked at it last time. There are quite a few areas where it's cracked.
Yeah,
To go and replace all that's gonna cost a couple $100,000. So we were thinking, I don't know if they could come in and patch those areas, and then maybe the county could help chip and seal, if they would pay for the
Overtop the
material.
whole thing?
Yeah, so you patch it and then do a chip and seal.
Where the base is crumbled, do that section underneath and then chip seal the entire length?
Yeah, so those areas that are map cracked, you come and you saw cut those out, and then bring in good material. We'll reestablish the base and put a good asphalt back, and then come and seal it with a chip and seal. We thought maybe that might be the best option without spending
Well,
some money.
how about a consideration as we did on the Denmark Road, where they just get rid of the blacktop and go to good gravel?
And you
Only
could,
That's gonna be a whole lot cheaper than if you go in and patch and chip seal, you're not gaining a whole lot down there, are you? Looking at the future, you're gonna be doing that.
yeah, and we were asking how thick it was. He didn't think, you thought it was only, a couple inches thick.
The
That's-
total surface, or the total
Yeah,
material
that's
they
what the
put?
operator had told us. So.
What year, do you know, well, you wouldn't know, but, yeah. I don't think you're gonna get people to be in favor of turning their main street into gravel.
Not necessarily the main street, but say from the bank on.
Oh, I
Around
see what you
where it
mean.
makes,
Yeah.
cause that really doesn't have any curb and gutter, and the edges are starting to kind
Yeah.
of fall apart.
It's, if you haul
That would give
down
you-
Main Street and on out and across the bridge with a big truck,
Mhm.
you got a lot of problems on that road. I mean, it's just a thought, it worked well on the Denmark Road and a couple other places in the county. It might be something to consider to save a ton of money down there.
Right,
The city doesn't have the kind of money they need to fix
Right.
that highway.
yeah.
oh, and it would give you more allotment to put back into just the main street then.
Mm.
If you're gonna spend the money, period.
I mean, it's their choice, but I'd see what they wanna do.
And that ties in, it's all paved there at the bridge south, it's all paved.
Paved up to the bridge.
Yeah, south of the
South
bridge
of
is
the bridge is
gravel all the way
Okay,
to the
okay,
highway.
so you pretty much make it
Yeah.
from the bank all the way to the bridge,
Yeah.
make that gravel.
Yeah. But up to the bank, some of that's really a good solid road.
Yeah, and there's areas that are pretty decent. And then there's some areas like, I think they did like a water project, but there's like some valve boxes, I don't think they packed it good, so it's
Yeah.
starting to, we take all that material out and repatch it, and then
That was some
do a
homemade
chip and seal.
patching that they didn't do well.
Yeah. So,
And a couple other things that I had. May I attend the District 2 monthly meeting that I have attended in the past, this 28th? It's this coming Friday in Salina, all the
Yeah.
District 2. Okay.
I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Why can't you take our Ford Econoline van down there and exercise the damn thing?
I can, if you'd like me to use that one, I can.
We were having a discussion last week about how it's so underutilized that the battery goes dead in between, trips, so.
If you'd like me to drive that one, I can.
I would make sure the county clerk's office doesn't have anything scheduled that day, but if not, I think it'd be a good idea.
And then 2 Mondays from today, the Lucas School Board has asked me, Lucas Silden School Board has asked me to attend their night meeting. Is it alright if I use the county vehicle to drive there for the 7:30 PM meeting?
That was an affirmative answer.
Just checking. And then there's it'd be Oak, right here on this map, right there. It doesn't show a map of a road there. There are trees that are 30 feet tall growing clear across the whole span of the roadway in a few spots. It's an open road, looking through all the records.
Trying to
Is
think
it
the
where
names
that gap
out
is
there.
in Grant Township? Is that?
Sorensen's own ground on it. It is in Grant. It's between.
Here.
Is it, you said is
It's
it
in
that
Grant.
gap
Yes,
spot?
so that's an actual road. That's an open road.
What,
Okay.
According to all of our road
what is that
records.
in?
Grant Township.
It's the one I showed you, Grant,
And what section?
28, north of the
North
top.
end of 28.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it's an open roadway. There's a few spots that have trees growing clear across it. The landowners have requested that we cut those trees down. I was wondering if, after we cut those trees down, if we could vacate that road.
Did you ask them about it?
No, I was gonna ask you guys first, and really, one of you should come up and see it, because
Oh,
to
okay,
see
that's my
to see
area.
the trees, you have to go through their pasture. You can't go down the roadway, it's impassable.
So we haven't been maintaining it for who knows how long, but it's still.
It's
But
listed,
why is it not on here then?
good question.
it's an open road according to all of our road records.
That's who owns it? Okay.
That answers some of your
So
questions.
I'll go with you to look at it.
Okay.
We'll talk after the meeting or something. And then, but I think typically the road closure requests come from the landowner, but at
Yeah.
this point, there's no reason we can't approach them and ask them if that would, and then anyone that has a discrepancy about it comes to the hearing, and then we can decide if it's not a good idea, but.
By the size of the trees that have grown, not like
It's
hanging over
not
the
like
roadway,
it's
it's
been-
growing through the roadway, it hasn't been.
Yeah, I understand.
And I asked Dave Winkler, our operator that's been in that
That's
area
his-
for a long time,
Mhm.
he has never gone on that road. It's actually in Rick's district,
Yeah,
but
But
Dave,
that's kind of like an
over it,
extension of
yeah.
right where they split, I see.
so Dave
it.
said, I asked Rick first, Rick said he never knew anything about it, cause he had talked to me after, that he'd been approached by them as
Mhm.
well. And I
Mhm.
asked Dave, he said, no, we've never touched, he doesn't ever recall going across that road or doing
Mhm.
anything to it.
Well, I think this ties in with what you were saying about closing some of those dead end or unutilized areas and kind of making sure they get off of our maps, but we want to do it the right way, so.
Yeah, cause it looks like at some point it was attempted to be closed, or was closed, and the
Well,
paperwork
obviously
never
it
got
hasn't
filed.
been being used
Yeah.
yet.
You're not landlocking anybody.
Why don't we,
No, not quite.
why don't we just close the road and let them worry about the trees?
Well, that's another option, the commission.
Why don't we cut the trees down, close the road, they get the benefit, we get nothing, I'd say close the road.
Well, they had approached us because they said the road was minimum maintenance and that the county was going to cut trees for them to put a new fence in.
Is it marked minimum maintenance?
No, it's not minimum maintenance, it's not closed out, anything.
Let's just close it.
Well, we can't just close it.
Well, I mean, before we cut trees down. Why
And
cut all the trees
that's
down?
an option too,
That's no, that doesn't do the county any good at all, we just throw the money away that we're doing, they're gonna close it anyway, let them cut them down. It's to their advantage, not ours.
Well, in essence, though, it's our malfeasance and negligence over the years that has caused the predicament that it's in currently. So I don't know that it's not the county's responsibility at this point. I'll be glad to talk to them about it, either way. But
Yeah,
yes,
Where is the location that you're speaking of?
it's on Oak. It's the north line of Section 28 in Grant.
It's a mile west of Merle Nielsen's place. Mile west and a mile, it's a quarter size, section 28.
2 miles
Grant.
outside of Denmark, west and a mile south.
It's never been traveled the time that I've been around, over 50 years.
Well, that's what we're saying, there's trees growing up, it's not a road.
No,
It's
it's
just
not.
never been closed.
I know, but if we technically own it, we can't just close it.
They use, the hunters use it because it's a.
Access.
I call it uncontrolled shoot there. Yeah, it's an
Let's
access
look at it, and then we'll bring
Yeah.
it back to the table. It's my section, so I'd be glad to talk
Okay.
to the landowner too.
Well, when you're out there, just tell them, we'd like to have a request to close the road. In any case, we can get that started, and then we can argue about it in a lot. But, along those same lines, how about all the stuff that we're looking to go to minimum maintenance and closure? Have you started putting stuff together on that?
I've been compiling all the maps so far.
Okay.
I still need your map. So I've got both school districts, your information, and Randy's information. Do you need another big map?
No, I have it at home, and yeah, I forgot a bunch of stuff today. That's my fault, but
Okay, next.
But that's what I have. So once I got all 3 together, I was gonna compile them all, overlay it on one map itself. And that way I bring that back to the commission and we can look and assess from there. I didn't have anything else on
Okay,
my
thank you.
booklet. Tanner had some things.
Yeah.
It's gonna cost us money.
I got one contract, but it's gonna get reimbursed by the wind farm.
That'll work, all right.
Okay, I guess we can start with that. And now called us, and they're wanting to do a meeting this afternoon with Brendan and I. And then they mentioned to us that they wanna start the pre-inspection of some of the portion of the roads. So in order to do that, I guess I need a contract signed, so I don't get fired for doing it. But this is going to be reimbursed by the RMA. I think the RMA had a not to exceed amount, so that was pretty much just used in here.
Been covered by their line of credit, as I recall.
Yeah, so it's for the pre-construction inspection, so we're gonna go videotape the roads, take photos, look at the structures, and do a mid-inspection of the roads. So about when they're about halfway done, we're gonna go look at them, and then do a post-inspection. And then the post-inspection will have a list of any damages that it caused, and then we'll have to settle up for that. So there's 2 copies, one's for you, one's for me.
I'm gonna look at it. This is, we've seen all this before.
Yeah, I presented it, I think last time I was here with the RMA, or part of the RMA.
Yep. All our little maps. I'll make a motion that we approve and sign this agreement for engineering services between Lincoln County and Kirkham Michael Associates.
second,
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
aye.
And
We'll
do you
do-
sign this, Don, or do you guys sign this?
You sign it.
Yeah, and then she'll,
Both copies, right?
Yep,
We'll
yep.
keep one and you keep one.
yep, you sign it, and she'll test, and the first page will have to date it.
Did you complete the motion?
Yes. Did I not?
Yeah.
All in favor say aye.
Yeah, aye. Mhm.
Just to make sure.
Okay. Beverly. The Hydersville Road Program, we were able to get the application submitted. It was due Friday, or this coming Friday, so we got that submitted. If you guys, here's a copy of that if you guys want it, just for your records on what we submitted. Let's see here. There's also talking about, I don't know, funding programs. The state announced a cost share program. And
A
here's,
new one?
yeah, so this used to be called another one. There's some information on it.
Is that the $56 or $56 million road and bridge and stuff?
That's forward. That
Okay.
$56 million is forward. That was their project pipeline. They changed the name of it now
Yeah.
to
Okay.
forward, and
That's not this.
No, this is separate. So this, they have 20 to 25 million available for the spring 2020 round. I think applications are due in April. It's for any, I guess right here, eligible projects, any construction projects that promote safety, improve access or mobility, and improve condition or alleviate congestion. We called them and are trying to figure out, okay, you know, if a county asks us about a certain type of project, do we just tell them, don't waste your time, it's not gonna get selected? They're looking for stuff to make KDOT look good. So like high profile jobs, I think Ottawa County, they have some curves.
So, oh, okay. Pertaining to a connection between a county road and a state road, or,
Yeah,
so, okay, eligible.
There's matching funds,
yep, so there's
15% non-state cash match, and additional consideration given to project applications that commit more than the minimum required match amount.
yeah, so,
So we
Do
can
you have
buy
any
into the poker game and get something done.
right. So,
We got
And
anything
is this-
ready to go?
so, we were kind of discussing a little bit, I know there's this box culvert right down here, but it's
By
in
the
city
park.
limits by the park.
That's kind of split between city and county. Nobody really knows who's
Yeah, so
gotta
that's-
fix that.
That's what I originally thought of when
It
this
leads
came
to a
out.
state road. What are you thinking as far as a dollar amount? Cause 20 to 25 million, they're gonna have 105 applications, potentially, I'm just saying.
Yes,
What did they indicate any kind of numeric for an application?
just like how much we should submit for, just whatever the project's gonna take. So if we put a concrete box in there, say we ask for 150,000 there.
Yeah, and then we have 15% back to us.
Right.
I'm saying a couple $100,000 versus $1 million project. If
Right,
they,
right,
I'm saying.
Right. Yeah.
Is the Rails to Trails project dead in the water? Cause they indicate that that's one of the things they'd look at.
All transportation projects are eligible, including roadway, on and off state system, rail, airport, bicycle, pedestrian, and public transit.
So I'm not entirely sure if the trail is. dead.
We have an unused railroad running through the county, got bridges out and stuff like that, but sometimes those rail to trail people like to see that out here in the country.
A mass
I
public
wonder-
transportation from Sullivan to Lincoln
Yeah.
does it go through Beverly?
Yeah, Kelly might be interested in looking at some of that. Maybe you ought to visit with Kelly and see. I do know that Rails to Trails program many years ago almost got a new county attorney hung because farmers weren't that excited about that, but times change. But that could be a tourist thing, coming in here, Lincoln, and sending it out here.
I know the rail line west of Lincoln's not in great shape. That's why they do 2 miles an hour.
Well, but I was thinking the other one, the old UP, that's already there and graded.
Didn't they already pull that portion out over by Sylvan?
What is it?
Union Pacific Railway.
The railroad itself, the embankment and all that is still there. The bridges are mostly gone. But the Rails to Trails people come along and they usually gravel atop of that. Good example in Salina where they work around on the
To do
east
what
side.
with it?
Make a bicycle trail.
Oh.
So people come out and ride their bicycles and bring tourist dogs into Lincoln eating things.
Well, it says construction projects that address an important transportation need, such as promoting safety, improving access or mobility, and improving condition or relieving congestion. So I would say that's a little more, what's the word? Recreational
Yeah.
as far as an idea, but
Well, all their bicycle stuff is recreation. But anyway,
yeah, but I think it's
Talk to-
talking about
yeah.
bicycle
I know,
as in
yeah, but-
reducing car traffic
Pedestrian
to,
lanes.
yeah, to put a
Understand.
bicycle
Bike
in.
lane.
they don't work. but that's just a thought, you might wanna visit with
Yeah.
Kelly and see, cause it may be a non-starter from the start.
I think, is this an annual? It says spring, so that's indicating to me it's gonna be seasonal.
Yeah, so I think they had one in the fall, and now they got spring, so they may have 2 per year.
Well, I would
Again,
like to
this is-
see us get that repaved from Ellsworth County to Lincoln County that connects on 181, which is a state road, to get us off of I-70. And that's a really highly traveled, I'd say it's about the most highly traveled area of county road that we have. That's my personal opinion, but, cause 14 is all state, so people coming in and out of Lincoln are on state road. 18 is all state, people coming across the county on 18. That section of Lincoln County that we keep patching with chip seal, that has never had a real road base, from what the old timers say, for lack of a better term. That's a big project, but if they're gonna do multiple year, and they're saying 20 to 25 million, I don't know how many $1 million project that is, and of course 15% is all relative to what we can afford to spend,
Right,
but
right.
you could do a section at a time.
Like a phase it out, do like a north and a south section or something like that.
Is there a deadline for application?
April 15th, so just, yeah, we got this email, so I'm just giving you the information, and I'm willing to help out with the applications.
Yeah,
So,
well, we ought to jump on it, you know, it's money that we don't now have to spend on stuff we want.
mhm. So,
Yep, I can come back with a list for what you feel.
Ask the city if they wanna share on that bridge out there, cause that thing kinda needs to be fixed someday.
I don't drive over it.
Where are we on the 80/20 application?
That's the Irish Rail Road that we just said we submitted.
We did the OS
Signage.
65, no, not that one.
112. We got selected for off-system 112 for the off-system bridge program, and that's the 80/20.
That was the last one though, isn't there an application coming up for the new one this year?
It'll be later this year.
Okay,
Yep. So we got selected, the survey's been completed, and we're working on the design.
okay.
So that's where we're at with that. The Hyversville Road one, we applied for minor collector signage. Signage is 100 so it won't cost you anything if we get selected, so hopefully. And yeah, and then the KLBIP program, there's tons of programs that are coming out. KLBIP, we didn't get selected on that one, but I think we're gonna try.
Could we ask you to present the commission with a list of those,
all
like the
programs.
applications and when they're due? Because
Sure.
I know we talk about them every year, but for us, it's kind of like not having an agenda. It's like,
Right.
which one's coming next?
Yeah, and I can put together something.
Yeah.
I think we may already have something put together.
We've been
that
talking
can-
about a future plan and trying to have our vision for 5 years, what that looks like, where the money's going, what the priorities are.
Mhm.
And so if we don't have kind of a seasonal knowledge about when the applications are
Right,
due, then
right.
we don't know what to put in front of the
Okay.
others.
Yeah, I could put together a little packet for
I'd
you guys,
appreciate
and maybe
that.
a little list showing the program and when it usually comes out, when
Right.
it's due, and that.
Yeah, and that'd be part of your coordinated list of priorities you got for the next 5 or 10 years too.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're out looking at something, you're like, oh, hey, we could apply into this, yeah.
And certain
Yeah.
things have a longer lifespan than others. You know, we may be able to push off certain projects, whereas others may be more emergent. And
Right, yeah.
With this kind of money, should we be looking at the Kiowa Road Bridge?
Oh, the one west of Sylvan, and that's an option.
I mean, you're talking a lot of money, this might be an opportunity to get a bunch of it in there.
Mm-hmm.
And you got all kinds of reasons. An old state highway joins 2 counties, does this,
Right,
does that.
right. We can maybe get
Makes
some
our
like
job
letters of
easier.
support. And that could be, yeah, we
But
could.
I mean, that's one that seems to be
Mhm.
high on our priority list. This might be an opportunity to do some of that. Cheaper to pay 15% than it is 80.
Mhm. So yeah, so that could be an option too, that we could maybe utilize this.
well, we can have a list of projects, and then we can have a list of grant applications, and kind of do a cross. What do you call it? Mapping. Then we can fight over what's more important.
What's going on up in the Ash Grove area, in that part of the county? We never hear much about that. Anything going on up there?
Can't
Anybody
get
live
down.
up there?
There's two bridges up there, and go 2 miles south on Strowman, we need a bridge. You can just start picking. We've got one lane to get to the to the highway, got 2 new bridges put in probably 30 years ago, but they don't put gravel on the road, so we can't go and use those
Have you
bridges.
talked to Brendan to get in his priority system, see what's gotta be done? Those are the kind of things, you know, we need to do. May not be this list, but you ought to have them on the list when you're done. Okay, is that it? We good?
Let's see, cost share program. The touch point project, just to give you a little update,
Okay.
I think Blue Stem signed contracts and we're reviewing them and then we'll get them sent to you
For
guys.
the 2 bridges.
Yep, and then we'll get you guys to sign them and then, but we
And
officially
you're gonna do
execute.
the other 2.
Had you been in correspondence since we've approved the 2 out of the 4?
Yep,
And
so we
that's
sent
gonna
him
be okay with-
contracts and he signed them.
Okay,
And then you guys will be getting
Okay.
contracts that he's already signed and you guys can sign them and we'll be good to go there. Southern Star we're working on,
oh,
we're working on that.
just, my memory fails me, but we did sign what you mapped out for the additional cells up at the landfill, correct?
No.
No?
You guys tabled it. I think you're wanting to break it out, cause I think the landfill's got like 5 years left before it's full and it's gonna,
On that first cell, or on the
Yeah.
second cell that we're on
Yeah.
now, okay?
so you guys kinda asked if we could maybe phase that out and spread the fees out over a while, but I think
What-
it was tabled, but it was,
Was that
Remember-
before him? Because
it was April 2019.
yeah, so I would like to reassess that, because I thought the purpose of us doing that with you was to grandfather it in, kind of, before
Yeah.
there become more
Right.
regulations, and
Yep.
then we can't
Yep.
use it, so I know you were working on that. Are we ready to look at a finalized projection? What is the cost on that?
Yeah, we can. I need to get the.
That's fine, I know you don't
contract.
have that with you
Can I bring it
today,
next
but
month?
please.
Okay.
I just wanted to bring that back to the table because we actually were talking about that with the landfill, that was one of
Right,
his concerns, and,
And we went out there and met with them, and I was able to get the existing facility operating plan and then the CQA plan also that he's got to keep on site with him.
okay,
So we probably will have to update that.
okay.
But
Yeah, just something to
we
put
can
on your
get you
list
something.
of
Yeah.
things we need to address soon.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. Work on that.
Did you get my picture that I sent from,
Was 65?
yes?
Yes.
Okay,
It's a 6-ton limit bridge, right?
it's
not-
3 now. They reduced the marking here a couple years
We'll be
ago.
out with shovels tomorrow.
Yeah.
Skid steer's fine.
It's soft now.
I know.
The-
Well, it's just getting to it will tear up a lot.
Yeah.
We
And
found
then,
that one out today.
yeah, we're still working on. We put together an exhibit for the Spillman Creek Bridge, moving the road over.
Mhm.
So we're trying to get Wally to come in and review that.
When will we have kind of a price?
What do you
There.
need?
So-
You just need him to do it?
No, we just need Wally to, because the one, like I showed last week, Wally had originally wanted it to be right along that ditch.
Yeah. And it's
Southern
all over,
Star,
yeah.
it's gonna go over further, so before we submit this to Southern Star, I wanna make sure Wally's all right with this.
What, do you need him to sign something, or?
I just wanted his confirmation on,
Yeah, okay.
so I left him, spoke to him twice last week and left him another voicemail last Friday. He's gonna be in the office, but then he had calves, so he didn't come in, so I spoke with him again Friday, asked him if I could meet up, left him a voicemail, I never heard back yet. I just don't wanna submit this in, Southern Star say yes, and then Wally come back and say,
You
no.
can't do
Yep.
it,
No.
yeah.
So I think the process will be, get Wally's approval, verbal approval on this, we'll submit it to Southern Star, we'll get them to okay it, and then we can write up like a legal description and something for him to sign.
Right, because we need to sell or
Get
purchase.
additional right of it, yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So
Yep.
he needs to know what we're purchasing
Right,
and where the
right.
markers will be.
Yep.
We know where he is every morning at 6:30, so if you need to really talk to him, we can
he's
do
up
that.
at, well, I told him I'm not supposed to take the vehicle to Mighty Mark, that looks
Well,
bad.
it's at the Hungry Hunter, you can walk.
A Hungry Hunter, okay.
But, I mean, if you need to see him, you gotta do it right now, that's where he's gonna be,
6:30 at the Hungry Hunter.
yeah.
Okay.
2 pieces of sausage, 2 pieces of toast, make a sandwich.
So, I guess the last thing, you guys signed the RMA with the wind farm on Tuesday,
Yes.
correct? Could I get a copy of that, just for our records, so we can make sure they're following it?
I don't,
Okay, yeah, that'd be great, Don, thank you. I think that's, and we're gonna meet with them this afternoon.
Jeremy coming down, is he?
No, he's on the plane.
Oh, okay.
Kevin Bolin and Chuck Weaver are their civil supervisors, site and civil supervisors. So, I think they had a portion that they had prioritized on 120th that they want to use. A little bit of bison to get the laydown yard started. And then I think they're gonna add more roads after that.
I have an off-the-wall question for them. Ask them what the volume of one of those blades would be, storage volume, both as a blade and chopped into 10-foot pieces, just out of curiosity.
Storage volume, and then if it was chopped into 10-foot pieces. I think they're usually like 8-foot diameter by like 150-foot long. Or
These
something
ones are
like
the
that.
shorter ones.
Short, okay. 10-foot pieces, okay. Yeah, we can ask them that.
I might have a couple of holes that they could put a bunch of those in, just depending on how big they are. We've got some abandoned trench silos and pastures that are of no value for anything. They're not used for that. They're big enough for a bunch of them, if they're cut up, I know they would be.
Yeah.
So I'd just be curious to see what they got.
Yeah, okay.
That might solve some of their problems. They only want about 180 days for storage, and then they're gone to Denison or somewhere in Texas, dried up.
Grind them and recycle them. Okay.
But if we can make their job easier, we'd like to do that.
Okay. Yeah, we'll ask them today or this afternoon. Okay. So that's everything I had.
I've got it. Unless you
We're
guys got
good.
anything else for me?
You still have advertisements for your
Postings, yeah.
openings? Okay.
Yep.
It's just on the website?
Yes, to my knowledge, that's where they're still at.
I think you might wanna go ahead and take some action to actively advertise in addition to that if you're looking
Okay.
to fill those positions, especially now that we have someone that can help interview and schedule all that.
Okay. Anything else then?
That's all I know. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Don't grade the roads today, though.
Wait, do you need this back?
No, is that the Hyversville Road?
Minor collectors?
Yeah, that's just for your guys' record on
Okay,
Put that in the
what
file.
we
okay.
did.
What's our portion for the share? Is that what this is, the 53,000?
No, you guys aren't, it's 100 zeros. So you guys
Oh, it's
aren't-
100, okay.
Be zero.
Thank
Still a little
you.
time for paperwork and stuff.
Yeah,
That'll be no paper.
awesome, thank you.
Madam County Clerk, have you any issues to bring up? Anybody else any business?
I do, we need
Okay.
to look at what we're gonna be doing here for our pay scale. We have to come up with our own pay scale for our department heads. We need to at least look at those and start the conversation so we can finish that on our end.
Has your department done your pay scale?
I have not. So, just for a little clarification for you, under the commission would be HR, the EMS, the highway department, the health department, the landfill, noxious weed, recycling,
Sheriff?
no,
Bus.
bus
Bus.
board. Not board, I'm sorry, there used to be a board, we actually dismantled it.
District Court? No, that's set by, they pay that.
We don't
Kim
have it,
pays
I
that.
think that's it,
Kim-
HR,
yeah, Kim pays the district court.
EMS, highway, health, landfill, noxious weed, recycling, bus,
Appraiser?
appraiser. I believe that's, custodian,
You got Jerry on there.
bus. Anything else? So everyone else is in an elected, emergency manager, which is currently him. And an unpaid position, right? Well, I guess you're getting paid, but you're appointed, so. Anything else am I missing?
All right, now, of those,
Mm-hmm.
the custodian
What we had
and the
commented,
trans, we can do, or set them down, wanna do that. Same thing on,
well, I'll make a comment now, we had decided that we were gonna move the custodian into the top pay tier. So we need to look at that
yep,
from there down, as long as we were gonna, mandate maintenance with the custodial
Right.
duties.
Ladonna's health department. There's not much we can do, let's see,
Let's take a 5-minute recess, I'm gonna go up and ask them to print off the
yeah.
last
we'll
year's
do
pay
that.
rates, so we can look
And
at
see
it
what
again.
else you got on that list.
Yep.
I'm thinking here, I should do that.
How long you suppose they're gonna go on this discussion before they adjourn? Are you talking about elected officials or non-elected ones?
Well, this is what I understand. We today are just talking about our department heads under the commission, which is everything except for the clerk is in charge of her own department, the sheriff's in charge of his own department, the register of deeds is in charge of her own department. Who am I missing? County attorney's in charge of her own department. Am I missing anyone? I did that, Sharon. Anyhow, so the way I understand it is, and this, I did confirm this with the attorney that we pay to belong to the Kansas Association of Counties, so we get free attorney advice, and I talked to him on the phone myself. We can set a pay scale for everyone, including elected officials. Now, we also set a budget overall and for each particular department. If you are the head of your department as an elected official and you budget, let's make the numbers easy, $100,000 and your pay is $50,000. If you get a quarter of the way into the year or half of the way into the year and you see that you haven't spent as much as you projected to spend out of your other line items, whether it's salaries for other people, we call them commodities, which are purchases like pens and paper and stuff like that, or contracts, your phone contract, your internet contract, your IT contract. If you're low and underspending what your projected amount is, you're able to give yourself a pay raise. And the way you do that is you just tell the county clerk or whoever's doing the pay. So that would be information for you to have. If an elected official comes to you and wants their pay increased, you have to do that for them. Now, the way I understand it is, as long as they're within their budget, they can do that at any time. So you could, and this is all hypothetical. Someone was accusing me of saying that I was saying this about a particular person. We had 3 elected officials who all gave themselves the same exact dollar amount raise. Well, not, the raise wasn't the same, but they put themselves to the same exact number. So the clerk, the sheriff, and the county attorney all changed their wages to equal $5,044 for in a month salary, okay? Whatever that means for their individual budget is up to them. If they want to reduce their contract price by changing contracts, thank you, or if they want to reduce their salary line item because they eliminate a position or something like that, that's all up to them within their own budget. But we can set a pay scale that they're going by as far as what they're paying themselves, wherever they are in that pay scale. They are not allowed to take a bonus. So if they get to the 11th month of the year out of the budget and they realize there's a lot of money that hasn't been spent in their commodities line item, they're not allowed to give themselves a one-time check to spend that money. But they can buy a new desk or a new file folder cabinet or whatever they want to do with that money in their budget. Now, the following year, when the commission, so in the middle of the year, when the commission sets the budget, we do not have to increase a budget by request because the elected official did that. So if the elected official absorbs funds that they didn't spend elsewhere into their own paycheck, the commission does not, we don't have to oblige by increasing their next year's budget again by that same amount. So there's some back and forth there. We don't set their wages per se, but we do set their total expenditure amount. Now, if the sheriff overspends their budget at any point in the year, we're obligated to allocate funds out of the general fund to cover those expenses. I mean, technically it has to be justified. It can't just be, well, the sheriff increased their own wages, so now we're over budget, so now we have to pay. I mean, we do have to pay it in that moment in time, but, I mean, that could be, we had a big to-do over that and some other things. Did you reread that Nylander case when we were talking about that? Because it's more than just the budget issue, but that's one of them. Now, for our own employees in individual departments, we're trying to have a comprehensive pay scale, which would mean a sliding scale of income for each position. So in the highway department right now, we have equipment operators, and then you have 1 through 9, entry level through experienced and cross-trained, etc. And then we have a mechanic position, and then we have a bridge crew position, a bridge foreman, and a director at current. That would be the different positions. So then we need to come up with that. So in the health department, for example, I think LaDonna's the only RN, correct?
Yeah.
So LaDonna is an RN. So is that, I think in the job description, you have to be an RN, huh?
One of the RN, but she's traveling.
Lisa White? I don't know if she is or not.
She's
Is she?
part-time.
So, job descriptions. So then what we really need to do is we need to look at each job description for the department head and then decide where they fall currently and where they're maxing out potentially in their pay scale. So here's human resource officer, for example. Education requirements, high school diploma or GED with a post-secondary emphasis in human resource preferred. So you don't even necessarily have to hold your bachelor's in human resources for this particular position, but it says it's preferred. And you would be ineligible if you didn't have your high school diploma or GED. Independent, well, remember we were opening this position from a position that really didn't necessarily exist on its own, so independent decision making, acts under direct supervision of the Board of County Commissioners. So then there's the description of, you know, what the elements of the position are. And we need to come up, now we have a budget set for that particular position, so we need to come up with where we are in that pay scale, which we know where we are currently at a pay rate, and then we know where we promise to be upon independence of the position after training. So I would say that's not a maxed out number for that position in particular, but we need to come up with a dollar amount and look at where we are in our budget to do that. I think we left a little bit of room because we gave a commodities line item and a contractive of how much it's gonna cost. We purchased some of the material for the office initially out of those and things like that we won't be buying again. So there's some room there. Director of EMS. 5 or more years experience, must be an EMTA or higher, which would be EMTA or paramedic. And we kind of did establish a pay rate for a paramedic, which is at 17, I think, correct? I think that's what we have right now.
We got it wherever it is.
So I believe when we initially, I need my calculator, calculated a $1 per hour amount for that position, it was based on the fact that we hired in a paramedic at that level to be a supervisor. So let's see, 17 times 12
They're running, this is about 1480,
equals
more or less.
12. So we're at about $1,000 a month more than the paramedics make to be the director of the department as a paramedic. So I think he's at what, 41 a month? Let's see. Where'd he go? Oh, here we go. Okay, 41 even. Yes. Okay. So 41. But he also gets overtime because we determined, did you have this conversation with Dawn yet? About the EMS director? The pay rate? So he's non-exempt because he performs the duties of his technicians when he's at work as he is taking one of the shift roles. So he actually makes 41 as a base salary, but then he's gonna have that 8 hours of overtime every week on top of that. So I don't know what we have his paychecks though, or his payroll numbers, but that baseline salary is what we're looking at. 41 times 12. So his salary right now is $49,200 at the current pay rate for the year. So I don't know what our other, let's say 2080 times 17. So if you were a paramedic not getting overtime, you're at 35,300. So with overtime, let's see, what would that be? 17 times 0.5 is another $850 an hour. 17 plus 850, so $25.50 an hour for 8 hours is $204 per week. Well, I don't know how you'd figure that, cause it's not every week. Or yes, it is every week. Times 52, so it is almost another 10,000. Do you have any idea what the overtime is we're paying, how you calculate how many hours that is for the EMS? Is it every week, is it eight hours a week times 52 weeks a year? So it is 10,000 extra, so regular paramedics at about 45,000 if you include their overtime, and we're paying 49.2 for the paramedic, well, but that doesn't include his overtime, so another 10 if he's doing weekly overtime at 17 at that same rate. So it's almost 59 too if you get the overtime involved. And that's with the expectation that he serves 2 24-hour shifts in a week, every week.
I'm pretty sure he's making $19 an hour.
41 a month. Oh yes, because I'm sorry, because what we did was we originally adopted that $4,100 a month, not doing overtime. But then we ended up paying the overtime on top of that because we found out that it'd be a non-exempt.
He moved into an hourly wage.
Right, because we thought he was exempt at first, so we were doing flat salary. So it's more like 59 too for the year, the way I'm calculating it. If it's an extra, well, but you said, so 19 an hour,
I think it's like 19.10, but
Okay.
they just gave him a 50-cent raise.
950. Who did?
You did. The board did. Just last.
Oh, for the
week
6
or the week
months.
before. 1971 is what he's getting, and that's without the 56.
That's without the 6 month? Okay, that's the other thing I wanted to address. Effective immediately, we need to stop the 6 month increases, because if we continue to do that, we're gonna be overlapping here with, we have a few people coming up on their 6 month, and we're implementing the pay scale.
Who's that gonna affect?
Brendan is one. That's
Well,
the
he's
first.
kind of an exception. Who else?
Well,
Derek?
but we already did his, so now we need to
But
look
do
at
we
our,
have any employees we've just hired? Sarah, for example, that's gonna penalize?
we already said that that's not gonna be part of negotiations with her because we chose a dollar amount to start and then a dollar amount upon completion of training.
So
Right.
rescinding that 6 month automatic right now would affect nobody. Is that correct?
Well, it's going to affect Brendan on the 3rd of
Well,
March,
he's a special deal. He's a special deal anyway.
and Caleb.
Caleb Holman,
And any of the new hires that we're
Sarah
doing in the
Timpson.
EMS department.
Owen Kruger,
So we grandfather it,
well, and, I mean,
what's that gonna cost?
what's the conversation with that? Because, before you guys have said the new hires shouldn't get the 50 cents and the 25 cents if they're only per need, and they don't take a regular shift, they're just only,
Right.
that's something you guys need to decide too.
So mainly it's Brendan, Sarah, and
Owen Kruger.
Owen and Caleb.
Yes, and then you have everybody who's completing their years, which is, you have, Rod Reese, I can't name them all, well, here, about everybody that's written in. Owen Kruger, Rod Reese, Brendan, Caleb, Tim Corby, Lauren Peterson, Derek Walter. If you guys do, Garrett Cheney's gone, so that's
Mhm.
not an issue.
Todd Hamby, that would be a 6 month one coming after a period of time here.
Yeah, I don't even have him. Oh, yeah, I already did. And I don't have Sarah Timpson on the sheet either,
Okay,
sorry.
that's right.
This is just my kind of cheat sheet. She's at 1350.
Well, the whole point of you suggesting that they do their own every 6 month evaluations is because a department head can bring forth a pay scale incremental suggestion for their employee after they complete the 6 months.
Yeah.
So that would align them with either getting nothing, 50 cents, $1, wherever they see them fitting into their pay scale.
That's a performance-based pay, and I like that better than an automatic, 'cause I don't have any problem. We need to decide what we're going to pay each of these minor department heads.
So they're in here right now.
Yeah. And then we need to decide if those are equivalent and equal among those minor department heads, and see if we need to adjust them. And then we need to decide and have the department head come in and tell us who's working for him. For example, Jerry Philbrick will have a person working for him. He needs to say this person is a driver, whatever it is, and that has to reference the Kansas State employees' job descriptions that we have in that file. And then we have to decide and allocate, or Jerry has to, levels 1 through 4, whatever he wants, so we can do that. And that's what I need those folks to be doing. And until we get all of those done, we really can't sit down here and talk. We need to
Well,
be
yes,
able to.
because we are responsible for doing it for our
I
own
understand that.
employees.
We can do that for each of these minor department heads and major ones too. But then I want the department head to go through their list. I can do it, you can do it, we can do it all. But I think we ought to have their input. And so far, I've been unable to get them to come in here. I'm not smart enough to know Brendan's job as to whether a grader operator is a stage 1, 2, 3, or 4. He does.
We have that list.
But
That's
he
what,
doesn't tell me the distinction between those grader
What moves
Pay
them up by
scales.
the grade.
right, you want the description along with
you gotta
the
have.
pay scale
Because
numbers.
among
I get
all of
that.
our folks,
And whether if they go up, like some counties, they'll go up a step for the first 5 years, but then after that, they don't go up another step until their 10-year anniversary.
But that's
Is
why
that what
he,
you're wanting?
no, he wants a description as to what
that
qualifies
too,
you.
all that has to be built into. How do you decide whether a person is a step 4 or a step 5, or what's the difference between the two? So when somebody comes in and says, Fred's a step 5 and I'm only a step 4, why? And you have to be able to objectively tell them that. You can't just say, well, I like Fred better than I like you, so he gets more money, which is sad to say what we're doing in a lot of cases now.
Is that pay plan that we paid for a long time ago?
Yeah, it's here.
It's one of the things that I had told Sarah was my goal to help you guys
It's
with,
here.
because
But the reason we would like to have all of these
Oh, sorry.
on the table at once is because the job descriptions are different from every one of these. But entry-level jobs should have equivalent pay no matter what your job is. If you're entry-level, you ought to get this, and then you can rise up. So an entry-level grader operator and an entry-level guy out in noxious weeds should be equivalent, and then they can be raised according to their performance and whatever else we decide ought to be.
And it also has to be within the means of the budget.
Absolutely,
Which
that's the
there was a
driving
question
force.
by the clerk earlier, that's,
Yeah.
if the total salary line item is within the budget, that's where the department head has the freedom to decide this person moves up, this person stays the same. For whatever their justifications are, that's not for the commission to
No.
decide.
But he has to be able to explain why
Yes,
you can
if we
move up.
question the department head, they need to say, well, this person moves up because,
That's-
not just,
But we need to develop the scale, have it all out here, so we can decide this is an entry-level position, no matter what the position is, and they should be equivalent. And as you go up, it should be equivalent no matter what your job.
right.
So some entry-level positions will start with more money. For example, if the health department or the ambulance people, if they require you to be an EMT, that's gonna get more money than I hate to use truck driver, but it'll be more than a
right,
truck driver
it's-
because you've got skills and education that somebody else doesn't have.
But that's not
certification.
necessarily how it is because of time served.
I know,
I'll
but we
point
need to,
that out.
that's why we need to have the whole thing listed out
Not in a
there.
negative connotation, but truly, that is what we're looking at. I mean, we have people that are EMT certified at $13, $14 an hour, whereas you have the same thing for other departments where it's just time served that has gotten them to that.
Well, that's why
dollar
we need
amount.
this all laid out there, because we've gotta have the whole table full with every job and position and sit down and figure out where we want to be.
Right,
get
and
there.
I'm just suggesting we do our portion. We have to at least start it. And I know Randy needs to be here to approve anything, but we have to have the conversation. So,
But I need the department heads to come in here Say, these are my employees, and these are their jobs, and this is the job description in the Kansas book.
Well, let's start with county appraiser,
All right?
because that's a department directly under us.
We have to decide what Rhonda's salary's gonna be, and we've already done that. Now, what's,
Well,
Her
no, but
assistant's
I'm
gonna be-
talking about pay scale though, because we
That's right.
have, right now, she's at $34.21 a month. Okay, that's current pay. So that puts her at 41,052 for the year, which is $19.74 an hour. Give or take a couple cents, half cents.
What was the monthly wage?
Monthly wage is
$34.21.
$34.21, yearly wage is $41,052, hourly rate is $19.74.
That's the current rate?
Uh-huh, that's
So is that
current rate.
Monthly again?
how does that
With that
compare?
raise or?
No, that's just current.
Oh.
That's without us changing anything,
How does that
34.21.
compare with noxious weed?
So, we flip over to noxious weed, the current hourly rate is $16.50.
Okay. They're both minor department heads. What's the justification for $3 more for the appraiser than for noxious weed?
At this point,
Education,
What's that?
or education.
Okay.
well, he has to have his own certifications too.
Education, but
I don't know what the hour difference is.
I'm not saying it's right or wrong, I just say we need to be able to justify it. We need
Right.
to say that,
I think at this point, it's more or less longevity when you look at the
well,
two. I mean,
how about
one's-
landfill? What are we paying him?
the landfill is currently at $15.55.
$15.55?
Mm-hmm,
Let's just get them all down here.
mm-hmm.
Custodian, John Paul,
Currently at $15.30.
and Jerry Philbrick,
Currently at $14.05.
and Sarah,
Currently at 17.
LaDonna,
Currently at, wait a minute, she's salary, so hold on a second. Let me do the math. Where are we at? Let's see. 38, 78. What's that say? 0.33? Dawn, is that 3878.33?
Yes. She's got
40,
autism.
46,500, 39.96. Comes out to, whoops, 2080, comes out to 22.37 an hour.
okay. Ray,
He is at currently, where are we at?
I got him at
Very
1405.
1405.
Derek,
He is at 1971.
And no, plus 50 cents.
Oh, excuse me, 1971 plus 50, 2021.
okay, do we have an emergency?
No,
He
we
was,
we
what-
did
we used to have him at 2890, what's that figure out to
2890 times 12 is 34,680 divided by 2080 is 1667.
be? And how about Brendan?
He's at
I understand
he's salaried at
yeah.
5,000. Comes out to 2885.
Okay,
Did you calculate that on 40 or did you calculate that on 50?
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. I did that wrong. What's 50? 20?
I hear, let me just look at
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's not the right dollar. It's the right monthly amount for him or yearly, but he has to do 50 hours for that.
2308.
2308.
okay, now let's go back and put them in order and see if we can make some sense out of it. We probably have a pretty good list here. We have, The highway department at 2308 is our most expensive. He also is the largest department.
Right, with a $2.5 million budget.
Okay. Second is the health department at 2237, and her pay, a lot of it is because of the education requirements. So we can
She has to be
justify
an
that,
RN.
right?
Mhm.
The appraiser at 1974 also has education built into her 1974, so that's probably equivalent. Emergency management got some stuff. Noxious weed at 1650 is $2.50 higher than recycle, and it's also $1 higher than landfill. Are those
I
reasonable?
can maybe give you background onto why. Dan used to be salaried,
Yeah.
and when they kind of put the department underneath the highway department and made it a public works department, they moved him from from salary to hourly. He was never exempt to begin with, so he probably should have always, so that's what his salary computed down to.
Is he not exempt because he performs the functions, like the duties of the job? It's not just it's not just supervisory. He actually physically performs the duties, which I would say he has to have his license, so he has credentialing, and he's a department head. You skipped one though. Derek Walter comes in at 2021 per hour.
Yeah, I did. He's the next one I was gonna get down to.
Oh, sorry. I was doing it in
I thought
dollars.
you were
Yeah.
putting them in order.
That's why I said we skipped one at 2021, then
Yeah.
back down to 1650 for
Yeah, but, well,
noxious weed.
Derek, he's got also educational requirements and certification requirements too, so he fits right into there. I
Well,
don't
and he
think,
has a $500,000 budget. I mean, that's
Yeah,
also,
in the responsibilities of the job, I think, the three of them, the highway department and the health department, probably are equivalent for one reason or another. Derek is probably, I hate to say it, but a little underpaid, but he probably gains that when he does, because.
may I elaborate?
Yep.
We we went from a part-time person taking 1 shift a week, being the department head, to a full-time person taking 2 shifts a week, being the department head. There's still a little bit of uncertainty as to how someone being there for 48 hours straight is doing an objective job over the entire department week to week.
Well,
So
yeah,
I think we need to have-
understand that, but I'm talking now in general, the position, if it was 5 hours or 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, these would be reasonable department head salaries for the requirements that EMS has for
But-
education and other stuff.
But what I'm getting at is when that person does that 48-hour shift, he's also making an extra $10 an hour
Yeah.
every week for 8 hours. So when you calculate
Yeah.
that into their year-end total, being the department head of the EMS pays more than the other two that you said.
And see, that's not right.
Why?
He doesn't have the responsibility the other two people have over education requirements.
I think a paramedic has a lot of education requirements, in my opinion, but, I mean, we can have that debate.
Oh, yeah, but we're in the ballpark.
Yes,
The
yes, I
appraiser
understand.
seems high, but she's high because of the education requirement. I don't have any problem with those four.
Well, and probably longevity too.
Well, there's some of that too, but
What do you mean? Oh, because
she's
why
been
their
there
rate is where
25
it is?
years.
Yeah.
HR is a specialist too, and she had some educational requirements. She comes in at 17, will soon go to something else, and I think we could justify that. If somebody comes in there and say, why the hell are you paying that for that, and we can say, this is why.
Well, it's a standalone department, so they are
Yes.
their own department head, although they won't have any employees, but they're also directly accountable to the commission. And we negotiated a dollar amount upon the hiring, but
Well,
I do wanna know, what are we doing for education requirements for like the first 3 months or 6 months? What is gonna be we talked about having that for the HR position.
Well, those are things we have to work out. That's what we gotta do. Going on further now, the rest of them, the
I'm
custodian.
thinking day 3, this is day 4, we haven't really had much time to actually discuss.
I'm not putting that on her, I'm putting that on us.
Besides, I've given her the flyers, but, now, I just wanna point out, Ray is not a department head and John Paul is not a department head. Or they don't have official departments.
Well,
They're
I
just
call them
considered employees.
minor department heads because they do respond to us.
Okay.
And among the minors, and the rest of them I count as minors, the custodian, transportation, noxious weed, recycle, the landfill, or what I call the minor department heads, and they should all be fairly equivalent in pay. They all have good jobs, they're specialized jobs, there's no big educational requirements for them. And they vary from 1405 to 1650, and those are generally in the area that we want them to be. So as we look at department heads, I think we're reasonably close to what we want.
Can I steal that classification there?
Yeah, here.
And we did participate in a survey for Barber County that I think part of it, because we participated, we'll get some free numbers from them, if that makes sense. Their EMS department is completely different though, because I think they're still volunteers.
But this is the kind of analysis I want to do to see if we can justify what we got, and I think we can, reasonably certain. At least we have the tiers where we want them to be, and apparently the salaries are commensurate with the responsibilities and education we desire. Now the next step is the one that I can't get my folks to come in here and do, and that's bring me in a list of people that work for you, and what do they do, and how would you evaluate their discriminants from step 1 to step 2. And there aren't that many. We don't have a person working for Ray, so that's easy enough to do. The appraiser, we can go up and talk and figure out what Terry gets now, and figure out if
We
that's
have that.
appropriate. But we need to have a job description of a appraiser junior, or whatever that's supposed to
We
be
have that.
called, and then decide where she sits in the step 1 through 8, or whatever it is.
We have all that, and I would say at this point in time, the longevity of the person there and the pay rate comparative to the department head is probably in a top tier. So you're gonna look
Yeah.
from there going down as in a succession planning idea, whereas you hire someone new in or who has half the years, half the experience, et cetera, I don't know that there's.
That's what we're gonna have to do.
Yeah.
We would assume that she is a appraiser junior step 8 or whatever it is.
Exactly.
But a new person coming in would be appraiser junior step 1, and this is the starting pay.
Exactly.
And that starting pay should be equivalent to all of the
To a
other
clerical
starting
position
pays.
under a different department head,
Exactly, and that's what we
relatively
need to lay
speaking.
out. And
That's where I kind of struggled doing anything, so I just didn't do anything, because technically, everybody in the courthouse is classified as the same.
yes,
So is that fair, is that not fair? I
Well, it
mean,
has to do with
I-
your budget. It has to do with your budget more than anything.
But I felt like even if I presented you something, you're probably going to classify all of the secretarial staff in the courthouse even. Does
Well,
that
no,
make sense?
No, I
no,
don't
because
think
you
so.
requested your new hire at like 12:30 or something as an entry level.
Which is the starting pay.
Okay, so you can, step 1, step 2 can be 25 cents more, or, and you know, and it's up to you as the department head to slide your employees within that scale, particularly depending upon their valuation, is what was where I'm coming from, and that's why he suggested twice a year, because instead of doing an automatic 6-month 50 cents, you say, we're gonna reevaluate you at 6 months in, and maybe I'm gonna jump you to the 3rd level because you've absorbed so much information that you can skip step 2, which is 20 cents, and I'm gonna jump you to 50, or however that works.
I guess my point being is that you're going to have all of us be on the same scale regardless, because we have like job duties.
no,
Not
you
necessarily.
don't, and I think that's one of the discriminations we need to make. You'll have a county clerk, if I can do that, with a specific set of job duties, and that will be completely different from, and I'll just use the district court clerk, who could also be a clerk stage 1, but her duties are completely different. So in your evaluation, you would say, my clerk has to be able to do this, which is specific to the job of the county clerk. It has nothing to do with the district court. And so while we'll have a general starting area for each clerk is gonna be completely different in the job description and the tiers and stairs that you have going up.
So you will have a different pay plan for every office. So the county clerk's office will have one pay plan, treasurer's
Almost
office will have a
exactly.
different pay plan.
Exactly right.
Especially
office.
That's
because
designed
you're
to
an
drive you
elected
crazy.
official. You have your own budget to work with. So if you, or let's just use the treasurer's office for an example, because you've gone through so many changes in the last year. let's use the treasurer's office. She is a treasurer, she makes X. She has 2 employees. If she wants a right-hand man, she's gonna say, my pay scale starts at 15, goes up to 22. If you have a bachelor's degree, you can do this, 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 and this. You can run the office when I'm not there. I'm gonna pay you $22 an hour, and it's in my budget. The other position, which is maybe secondary to her right-hand deputy treasurer or whatever, the other clerical position, maybe I start you out at $10 an hour. Because anybody can learn to do it. And you just sit there and do data entry, and when you're seasoned and when the deputy clerk can rely on you to take over their duties when they're not there, I'm gonna max you out at $17 an hour. So you have a range from $10 an hour to $17 an hour, and you have a range from $15 an hour to $22 an hour, somewhere in there. Because you're identifying the prioritization, and then you're saying once you make $17 an hour as a clerical assistant in the office, if you really want to go and get more education, go get your bachelor's degree, then you apply to be the deputy clerk, or maybe you've maxed out in your efficiency for the position, or you're completely stable because you love the job, and the pay scale doesn't get adjusted every single year, although it eventually needs to get adjusted for inflation. Does that make sense?
It does, and I hear what you're saying, and it's just completely different than what we've ever done before, because, no offense, clerical staff was hired in at X amount of dollars, let's just say we'll throw out $10 an hour, and all the highway department employees were hired in at $12 an hour. That's how it's been, that's how the norm of Lincoln County has been. And so I think that's why everybody's like a little hesitant, or not maybe hesitant, but, oh, well, Dawn will probably do it because it will apply to all of us. So if you're saying it's not going to apply to all of us, then that's something that Sarah can work on with each of the departments. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Because
yes, it
always.
needs to be independently done. So let's take your office, for example. You've been doing all the HR stuff because you reduced your staff. So you were getting paid out of the HR budget, so you could put in all that overtime to get paid to do it. Now we're gonna release that duty from you eventually here, okay? So now you're back to, what does Dawn have to do in the clerk's office that is Dawn's responsibility? Take Hannah out of the equation. I'm not trying to analyze her as an employee, okay? I'm just saying, position, deputy clerk, the deputy clerk position. If you're making, whatever it is your salary is, $5,000 a month, and you want your deputy clerk to be like on top of it, you make a job description that says, I want you to have a bachelor's degree in accounting, and I'm gonna pay you $25 an hour. And that's within my purview of my budget to have this qualification for you to make this much money, and when I walk out of the office, you can do everything I can do, and I don't have to worry about going on vacation. But if you don't want that, you can hire 2 people at $12 an hour. Do you see what I'm saying? You can have 2 people at $12 an hour who only have a high school diploma, who just do data entry, that don't do your job for you. Or you can have one person at $25 an hour and say, I expect you to have this, 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 and this, and this. That's how you run your department. And we don't have a say in that.
What I don't want to have happen is that I don't want you to have, and these are bad terms, but I'll use them anyway, Hannah as a clerk compared with Terry as a clerk across the hall. They have completely different jobs. So they may both be clerks or secretaries or whatever you want, but I don't want them compared, because your clerk is going to have a whole different set of things to do, and a different set of standards to meet, and a different set of knowledge to work with, as does she. And so you can't compare the two. You as the employer or the supervisor has to compare her with herself and your expectations, and that's what Rhonda's gonna do over there. So,
Okay, I understand that, but do you understand where I'm coming from, where
Yeah.
that's not been the norm?
I understand that.
So we'll just have to
And
figure it out.
That's what we're trying to fix here, and that's why we need all this laid on the table, and it's gonna be a great big discussion and argument and cat fight, and we will eventually have a plan I think is gonna be fair to everybody, up and down.
But it goes back to you being independently responsible for your own budget. That's why when you say I need 120,000 or whatever it is, I'm just making stuff up, but that's why you're responsible for it. You're like, this is what I need, I'm taking this much, I'm paying this much, and I'm gonna have one person that's super qualified making this amount of money, or I'm gonna have 2 people because I want the man hours, and neither one of them really have to have, do you know what I'm saying? Like, you're the one that sets the expectations for your own employees, just like we have to do. I am personally satisfied that there's a paramedic as the EMS director as far as a qualification, but that doesn't necessarily mean that skills in the job are equal to skills in the management world. So that needs to be, weighed as far as knowledge base. You have, and then you may have another department where their management skills, their ability to calculate the numbers is really good, but maybe they don't have as much experience on the actual job performing the functions. So it goes both ways. But I think where we are right now, with these are the current pay
Well,
rates.
see, just laying this out, that already is a good start. We know we're probably in the ballpark most of these places. Over time, we can adjust these so that the minor, department heads are a little more in agreement, but I don't think there's anything wrong with it now. And our major department heads look to me like they fill in.
Do you have
pay
a
and
comment in the
measure
back there? I'd be
responsibility.
happy to address you personally.
No, I'm reading something else, I'm sorry.
Okay. So,
No, you can hear me.
Our next step is to get the department heads in here and say, give me your stuff.
well, the other thing is though, we have the evaluations, we've done one for each department head, so we need to apply the new numbers that were, I mean, I want Randy here for that part, obviously, to their dollar amounts, and then we need to have the pay scale
Yeah,
for
but
each
if we don't have
department.
this laid out, we can't tell whether those are gonna be reasonable numbers or not.
Are we doing like a 10 step or?
That's arbitrary, whatever you think you ought to have.
Yeah, whatever you want.
Ten's probably a little too much, but you can do that, and that'll allow you over time to keep increasing the pay.
And are we factoring inflation at all?
I
Well, we
think-
have to work with where we are we already have an approved budget for 2020, so that's where we're working right now. Whatever your max salary line item is, divided by your number of employees and whatever they're making currently, is gonna be the range. So, let's take LaDonna's department, for example, it only has 4 employees. If you calculate the 50 cents a head, that's, like you said, $2 an hour overall. Now, I think there's some flexibility for some of the departments because she's receiving reimbursements now that weren't in her budget. So I think that's up to each department head. But whatever you have for your salary line item for an approved rate, that's what you can work with then.
But to answer your question, inflation is not part of the pay scale. Inflation is a separate action that we have to decide every year if we're going to pay the cost of living or inflation, whatever you call it. And that depends on the availability of funds and whether we can do it or not.
Okay,
But
and
that's separate from pay scale.
the inflation will be separate completely.
It has to be.
When you calculate inflation though, what you do is you revise the entire pay scale. So you don't necessarily do that every single year. It's not, and I know that's what you're saying. We never did that because we did 50 cents a year, 50 cents a year.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure
Yeah,
it.
yeah. But the actual inflation calculation would be, okay, this is our pay scale,
1.5% across the board, or
But that-
whatever you want to do.
but what you would do then is you would adjust the entire pay scale. You don't
That's
just
what I'm saying.
adjust,
You-
yeah.
Every pay scale would have to be
But
adjusted by some inflation amount if you wanted to do that.
Sarah had mentioned that there's a website that you can go to see what the standards are.
What's it called?
It's
Positions?
Kansas Wage Survey, the most recent was the 2019, but it has listed, you can separate it by the whole state of Kansas or by, I believe we're in the northwest region, that gives you a list of every possible job, an entry level, an experience level, and then it has broken down by percentile, so that may be a good starting point
Yeah.
So
for
may,
these department heads to kind of get an idea.
may we ask you to go ahead and link that in an email to the department heads? Just link them
I
that
will,
site?
I'll take the next step and go through and delete, all the educators and delete the non-relevant to the county positions, and then send it out to give them kind of a guideline of, entry level across the state or through our region, kind of entry and max. At least we'll give them a general
And
starting
I've
point.
been in that website and looked it over, and it's excellent, but it doesn't give me the exact jobs, for example, in the highway department. It doesn't give you the truck driver or bulldozer driver. Those are not called out. They're called heavy equipment or whatever else. And if that's what we're gonna use, okay, but if he's gonna call out something different, then we need to know that.
And he could use, the heavy equipment operator, he at least has the entry level through
Yeah.
max.
Yeah.
Bulldozer, grader, he could separate it out and he can use those numbers as a guideline at least.
But it appears to me, and I've talked to Brendan about it, there is a difference between a heavy equipment operator that can work a bulldozer very well and one that can work a grader very well, because those are two separate skills. And so he needs to, Brendan I'm talking about, needs to make that distinction. And if a guy then, one of the steps could be he can work both, that's all right, but as your initial job, the one that I looked at from Kansas didn't have them called out like that. They had heavy equipment.
Well, but for example, if you're at a level 5, let's say the guys we have right now, just because we're trying to make the pay scale broader, everyone falls in like a level 5 or 6, which is probably about accurate. You could have everyone from a 7 and up, they have to be able to run both this and that, or you don't qualify to get into the
Yeah,
level 7 pay scale. So he has to determine that. We don't want to do that, but maybe you could help guide it as far as,
Well, that's kind of what I wanted to
yeah, get some,
clarification
yeah.
for me. So for your department heads, you want them to separate by employee as far as job duties, responsibilities, the description of their job, education and training to factor into X, Y, Z.
But in
And at
addition,
some
the
level, that
critical thing-
cross-training increases your value on the scale.
The critical thing I've got to have is the gradations between the steps. When a guy says you're gonna be a step 3 and he's a step 4, I need to know
This is
exactly subjectively what those differences are. We can't do this as we've been doing it in the past, objective, not subjective. And if you can't write it out on a piece of paper so that somebody can look at it and say, yeah, okay, I can understand that, then we haven't done our job. And that's what I want the department heads to do, and that's, only they can do that. Because only Brendan can say, it's important to have a truck driver that can work the grader and the bulldozer and that. It may not be possible and it may not be useful to have a truck driver work a bulldozer. Two completely different skills. Only he can tell me that, and so he needs to make those gradations.
So for example, I think it's easy to use the EMS department because you have an EMT.
Yep.
You have to be an EMT, first of all. Then you have an EMTA.
Yep.
Then you have a paramedic. So at some point, the cap on an EMT is the level below the entrance level for EMTA. Then the cap on the EMTA at some point is the entrance level to the paramedic. So that if you want to get from the cap on an EMTA to the next pay scale, you have to go to school and get your paramedics
But there
license.
are other things on the EMT that aren't readily apparent because you're an EMT. He can make decisions, or he can make gradations, can perform the drug inventory and certification, can take care of the cleaning of the house. There's a lot of little things that Derek can do, or whoever, that don't necessarily appear in the EMT description, but make a difference in your pay scale. If you take care of the drugs and you keep the place clean and all that stuff, I wanna pay you a little bit.
Or if you're doing the scheduling,
There's
for
other-
example,
So,
yeah.
but only Derek can write those things down, and only he can tell me that this is important and this isn't important.
Yeah. But we really are lacking in our supervision of that particular department's role as far as a supervisor, because we went, as I explained earlier, we went from a part-time department head to a full-time department head, but the only difference is they're now serving one more full 24-hour shift.
We've gotta revisit this with Derek in a couple-hour session here one of these days. I mean,
Yeah.
in the next couple of weeks, well, it won't be for 10 days, but
I think the conversation needs to be, if you're going to continue to do 2 24-hour shifts and not be there daily, then go ahead and appoint your subordinates certain tasks. Let's say one person is going to be in charge of doing the scheduling. You know, so everybody contacts that person when the schedule changes, or they put the schedule out initially and then take all the feedback or whatever. Maybe that, if you can be an EMT and do that, maybe that ranks you higher on the EMT pay scale than just the entrance level EMT new hire. But he needs to come up with those delegations, because if he does those delegations, then his particular position's worth less. But if he does all of that as his own responsibility, then his particular position is worth more. So,
well, at the risk of being pointed, if Tommy breaks his leg, who takes over Tommy's positions today?
well, they just have to have, actually, I think they can still just have 2 EMTs on, right?
Who schedules? Who makes that decision today?
Right now,
Right now, Tommy breaks his leg.
I think Tommy calls somebody and asks them to work the rest of his shift.
They call each other.
I think, but I don't know that for sure.
Is that
So-
not a department head's job? What if we have to inventory the drugs, or what if we have a problem with drugs?
Yeah, like a
We
random
can do
inspection
that.
is happening today. Who, do you call in the department head, or is there a protocol? I don't know.
These are discussion points that we're gonna have to have.
Yeah.
And
Well, it's
This-
probably
we're-
something the employees would feel good about knowing as well, you know.
this
What is the
applies
protocol?
everywhere else that we have more than one person in the department. When the boss is gone, who's running the place?
And I know it's harder than the 8 to 5, you know, I get that, it's harder to handle that when it's 24/7 and you have a mass amount of people.
But our call volume is relatively low, so I feel like we can get it under control. Being that it's not like you're not constantly backlogging call after call after
But the
call
problem I
24
have in
hours
the
a day.
funeral home is these people are very, very inconsiderate. They won't schedule these things in advance. Just, you know, if we run an ambulance call every 92 minutes, it'd be great.
Yes.
But they just don't do it, so.
I'd
you've
sign
gotta
up
be
for
able
all
to
the
go
shifts
for that.
where nothing happens.
Okay, we're gonna have to, we've done about all we can do here, I think, today, until we get the department heads to come in here and give me that information we want.
Well, I can tell
Great.
you what we recommended after our evaluations for positions, except for
yeah.
2. We didn't talk about 2. So you and I probably need to.
Well, yeah, I'd like to see the rest of the laid out here, because we don't know how this is all gonna affect the total county budget. There's a lot of little hidden things down in here that we may not be thinking about right now, because we're only looking at the front end of it.
When, I know that you said that if they're within their budget, that the employee benefits, but didn't we cut some of that employee benefits back, knowing that you weren't gonna replace some of those employees?
I don't, what are you?
I was gonna try to find, the spreadsheet to see
I mean, I have our
how that
budget.
come through. I mean, if it's really your intention to have attrition and not replace, you know, I was gonna try to do a forecast of what the health insurance was actually gonna end up costing us once the numbers got a little bit more stable so that we could see, but I may have Sarah actually work on that, because I think that's something that
Sure, yeah.
HR, I think, would
Yeah,
be
I mean,
in charge of, is, you know, how many employee benefit plans do we have, what is,
what I have right now, the 2020 adopted budget, $1,405,407 for employee benefits line item
for the total.
for the total. Let me see what last year. I think I have last year's too.
For some reason, I think we cut some of that.
Last year was 1,356,085. So it's up by 100. Well, half or 50,000. What did I say?
Which is what our health insurance plan is. And then Capers, some
14.
social security.
1,405,000. So it's up by 50,000. We put 50,000 in above and beyond last year's.
I don't think we're saving anything on the health insurance by the time you add in the 6 different companies it's getting paid.
Well, there's another discussion that we need to have. Not for you right now. I know you have a lot of other things going on, but I'm sure she told you this is the first year we tried having a benefits management company. So we did come out of the state plan, and it's my understanding that we can't opt back in for 5 years. But the hope was that the long-term goal is some of the people get on an HSA plan, which is a higher deductible, if they know that they're not habitual users of the plan. But I think there still needs to be some more explanation. We didn't have a great turnout for our little invitation for people to come and talk with the company, although I think it's probably beneficial for you. And
We had 4.
Noelle had told Sarah and I don't remember who else was at the table, but she has the high deductible health plan and understands it very, very well. And that she'd be willing, but she said it's important for us to know that she's not gonna sell somebody on it. You know, it's their personal choice, but she'll talk about the benefits of it and how it could work for people.
so one of the things we were confused about, and I too was under the impression that when we hired them, it was for them to administrate the entirety of the health plan for each individual. So now what they're telling me now, Dawn, or what I was asking at that meeting about that question, they're saying that only if it's a new hire or a firing, so that they need to be changed in the mid of the year, that you would have to access the portal
Yes.
and then change the information.
Do
But
all
they-
terms, changes, additions, new enrollments.
But that's just because we have the employee, so we know if they're coming on, if they have a family, if they have, I guess we thought we would be sending them to them and say,
Yeah.
tell them all your information, and we kinda thought they were doing data entry too, which apparently they're not. But she's still saying they're doing all the open enrollment every year.
They'll come out and do the meeting, but I don't think that they'll do the actual change in the portal, cause we'll be the only one that has access to change in the portal.
Well, we need to figure that out.
Was it Noel set up? Was that part of her approval?
Just
When
to
we added-
have access, but not to make changes, just to have view.
That could be something that's discussed before next open enrollment, cause that's gonna be a lot on me to sit down with every single employee.
They'll
versus
come out
having
and,
them,
they'll come out and do every single employee, but I think that you
the
want, if,
input will be me.
mhm.
But that's not exactly what we thought we were doing for the fee that we were paying, because there's a percentage fee, 7%, 4%. There's a percentage fee on every single plan.
She's getting 2.5%, because I did look that up.
Oh, okay, so it's 2.5%,
So, you know,
plus
at-
a monthly fee.
Yeah, at the 77,000, you can figure out what it is, you divide it by 1.025, and you can see what she's getting paid. So
What's the 77,000 number?
Last month alone, that's what our Blue Cross Blue Shield was.
The payment out is 77,000 for 1 month. Divided by what?
1.025. And then you subtract it from the 77,000. So she's getting
So it's
another
like
$1,800
on top of the 1,500. So it's close to 3,000 a month payout. But this portion is calculated into the benefits plan per individual, right?
Yes, this portion is as premium to Blue Cross Blue Shield, and then Blue Cross Blue Shield cuts her the check.
So
to the
technically,
$1,878.
okay, but so technically, if the county were able to recoup that number somehow, each individual plan would go down by that percentage, right? So the plans are cheaper, but the difference is being made up in the payment coming out.
And I'm not sure the plans are cheaper, because I know my overall costs went up. It just appears that the health insurance plan is cheaper, but the overall cost by the time you add your dental plan is not cheaper. It's more expensive for employees.
Well, I know one of the problems was we had about 17 employees that didn't turn in the assessment on what your history was for your usage. So for Blue Cross to give us an estimate, like a bid per se, they had to know our group's utilization of historic records, and we didn't really have a complete, 17 out of 60 is a pretty high percentage to not know where we were on our utilization, so we were kind of hoping that the people that didn't turn it in were low on the utilization scale, but if they weren't, then really we went with a bid that was based on, 3/4 of the people turning in their reports, so.
We got lucky because, as I recall, they were on the low end, so we didn't get penalized in the 17.
I don't know.
Yeah.
She doesn't know either, because,
Our prices didn't increase, so
so hopefully it was turning in their utilization reports,
I think this year will play a big factor, because they'll have history.
Exactly. Which, that's what we were hoping for. By coming out of the state plan, we were hoping that the variance that we see, if our overall group health is better, then we reap the benefits in lower costs. So that's part of the plan, is that we're not paying for other people in the state plan who have a high utilization rate.
Which, while you mention that, I just wanna kinda throw this concept out there. Let's just say, for example, the rates do decrease by 5% after we've had a good year. I can't imagine them doing that, because normally they go up, but let's just say if they did. What if we would take that 5% difference, continue to levy the same that we are, budget the same that we are, take that 5% out to start building that to where we could be self-funded?
Yes,
Yeah, then-
absolutely. That was kind of an end game conversation with Rhonda, which I think sold us on the pitch, right? She does do self-funded, and that could be beneficial. Like you said, you build your own funds. Now, are we allowed to hold those in like a non?
Yes,
yeah.
I believe we can.
Okay.
One of the things they talk
An
about.
idle
We're not
fund,
talking
like
a
an-
lot of money, though.
No, but year to year, it makes a difference when you add all the years together.
It might get you to that point in time where you could become self-funded and you would know that you'd have, because a lot of the self-funding is if you have a major catastrophe, you're paying for 100%. Of course, you have that Berker.
Well, the
fee that
third
she
party
talked about.
insurer, right, comes in after the cap, which you hope then they'll insure you again the next year if you have a catastrophe. So that's the risk, is that you go self-funded, you have that one catastrophe, you hope that they'll just continue to be the third party insurer after that and not drop you, because then your choices are limited. But
It's all a roll with a die. Is it okay
Okay.
if we take this?
yeah,
and just
yeah,
look at
anything is,
One of the
all
things
this is
I should-
open records except for what's locked.
I would like to note before we get away, on that budget and finance class I took down in El Dorado, K-Camp, Friday, one of the budgets they used was Lincoln County's budget for last year, and they were extremely complimentary on the preparation of that budget, which falls on the county clerk, and I think you should be congratulated for that.
Well, thank you, and again, the auditors help with that.
I have nothing further. Shall I recommend adjournment?
Right, until Friday, we need to do board appointments.
I
It's
brought
not-
that
Do we have
folder.
payroll? Is
Yes,
that Friday
let's,
too?
let's at least prep ourselves on what we know we're doing on Friday.
I actually had started to grab that. Oh, I have it in here.
Do you have job descriptions?
They're on.
Okay.
And I think we discovered that they're not the right ones on the website.
The updated ones that we worked on.
Yeah, but we just haven't had time to. That's kind of my to-do
I can forward
list
you
as
some of
well.
those emails too. I think I have some of them.
I don't, this is the list that I had, the one from last year, and the ones from this year, and the advertisement. I don't know what you guys want to do. I mean, here's what I've got that I came in with. There may be another one that came last week that I haven't got in there.
I wrote down just the,
I tried to put them in there, but I haven't filed last week's minutes yet.
okay, Lincoln Fire Board.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Board number one.
Hospital.
That's Cody's Hospital, Terry Jo.
Okay, so we found out which Cody it is. It is Flynn. And I spelled it wrong.
I don't know if he's gonna change his mind though, because of the time that they're meeting.
And I do have to announce, I should say it today, that Caitlin Ansel requested to be a board appointment, but she's employed by the hospital, so we really can't consider that. That's a direct conflict of interest, to be on the board that pays you, essentially.
She is for sure.
That's, I mean, I asked 2 different people, so, and I think it's a per need, so it's not like an on, from what I understand. We can verify that, but that, I definitely asked about that. I don't think it's necessarily a full-time occupation thing. Is this it?
No,
Okay, so I
I
have
don't
these.
have hers.
Well, it was an
No, I
email,
got-
it was an
yeah,
email.
Okay,
There's this one, that's the one I just
Yeah.
said. This one we got an email, that one's on paper. This one
yeah, that's right here,
on here, okay,
one of these right here.
this.
Yep.
It's here.
And
and
are
then-
we going to vote on these now, or what are we doing?
Uh,
Do we need to do that today? I mean, we can do it, I'm ready to go.
well, that is up to you guys. I just don't know if I have everybody there.
Wanna put it off till Friday then?
If you give me 5 minutes, I can go look and see.
Yeah, please,
if I
would
have
you?
any more legal
At least we can check so we know where we are.
I don't have our special board appointment, we didn't get anybody
there
apply
one?
for that,
What special?
the Dahlia
Oh,
board.
Delia Pitter? Well, Terry Heater I had told her, last year you guys appointed her to Delia
Yeah.
Pitter. Normally, the same person that's on Delia Pitter is also on Children's Healthcare, so she put
Yeah.
a letter for last year's, because you never appointed anybody to last year
Okay.
for the Children's Healthcare.
Well, I think we could appoint both of those. And then we have more fire board appointments.
So, how many official openings do we have for the
I think
hospital board?
we have 5 now that Lorelei, we need to check.
Okay, so we have Mr. Ansel, Mr. Broberg. They were
Yep,
incumbents.
Lorelei and Bob Krangle,
Lorelei and Kringle.
yep. And
That's
if
it.
there are more, I don't know
I
of.
think that's it, because Mr. Weber is gonna stay on, but we talked about the
Yeah.
situation there. And then we have Mr. Serene's is
He's
not
good.
up,
Alan Serene's not up.
and, there was a third one, cause there are 7 positions. Houston, he's on too.
Yeah, Bill's on, Bill and
Yeah.
Alan and,
So it's 4.
yeah. So we have 4 openings.
I agree.
And then if Terry gets on 2 boards, this one and the Dahlia board, which is good.
So I think the Children's Health Endowment Fund is the utilization of the interest earned on the principal of the Delia Pittard, if
Yeah,
I'm correct.
I think so,
So Delia Pittard can only be used for a cleft palate.
right.
And then if you have medical bills that are unpaid, you can request money through the Children's Endowment Fund, which consists of them spending the interest on the Delia Pittard, because we don't have enough cleft palates in a year to utilize all that money,
We've
so.
only had, what, 2, I think I heard the word 2
In,
at one time.
in a long
yeah.
time, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I haven't seen any, she was gonna check, but I haven't seen any other fire boards.
That's all, I think this
We
is
need to
all she
update
had.
this board appointment book too.
These are hospital board things here, and this
Okay.
is hospital board,
I'm gonna get rid of
and this is the
book.
web fund.
Do you have any questions that you can think of? Just, we'll be meeting again on Friday, so if you need us for anything, go ahead and come down to the meeting. We usually just, the end of the month, last working day of the month, approve all the accounts payable, so all the bills that Hannah has collected and data entered, and then the payroll. So I think you're gonna be working on that with Dawn, right? And we can take miscellaneous items on the agenda that day. A lot of times we might just have a follow-up discussion from whatever was going on.
Okay.
Sometimes we try to combine it with the last of the Mondays too.
Depending on when it is.
If it's close enough to Monday and Dawn can complete the payroll, then we just do it all on Monday, but this will be Friday.
Then we'll meet again on Monday the 2nd.
Sorry to have such a whirlwind of issues, but you've come right in the middle of, it's actually good because you can kind of trailblaze, I think.
It's why you were hired. Okay.
I wasn't part of your interview process or anything. Did you go to school specifically for human resources, or is that just something that you've gone into?
It was a position I kind of fell into. But if I'm not working with kids and recreation, I'd rather be working with people, and
So did you go to school for something in particular?
my degree is in recreation sports management.
Oh. Huh.
People related, just little people. Yep, young kids and
Sometimes it's the same thing.
absolutely. Absolutely.
I was told the other day that we have a person with a degree in HR here in the county, and I think he'd be a great assistant for you.
You can wrangle him down.
Who's that, you?
Volunteering for something else, huh?
I don't think Don would give you much desk space. Billy Hill.
An HR degree, really?
Okay, nothing jumped out of
Okay.
my desk, so.
So you think these are the ones we have? Okay. You wanna appoint them now, or you wanna wait till Friday?
I'm ready to take
Let's do it.
action. I made the comment to our missing commissioner, and he said he was not interested in contesting anything, so if he wants to, we can fight about it Monday. I move to approve Terry Jo Heater in a dual position to the Children's Healthcare Endowment Fund, and the Delia Pittard.
I second that. She gets,
Hang on.
Does she have to do an expired term for one?
She would be the expired term because she's already on the Delia Pittard.
okay.
So that would be that part of the 2019 that was never appointed.
So we need to
Sorry.
approve it, or
Okay,
are we good?
Yes, so she would fill the unexpired term, I guess. Then that would keep her at the same cycle like everybody else, unless
Okay.
you wanna do something different.
Nope, we won't do that.
Okay, so, well, wait, she's not on here. Whose
Well,
position did
that's
she?
not been updated. She took Rita Peterson.
Rita Peterson, okay.
Rita's on it, yeah.
Okay, so,
So we'll appoint her and you put her in the correct cycle.
Children's Healthcare Endowment.
yes.
Term expiring, and it's gonna be,
Well, it should say 3 years then.
yeah.
Oh, wait,
It'll
oh,
be
wait.
2 years.
2 years to begin
I'm
the
on the
cycle,
wrong one.
right?
I think it says at the
This
top,
expires 2/28/19.
No, they both expire at the same exact time.
19, 20, 21, 22. So December 3rd, or February 28th, December 2020.
2022.
But these are both, Rita Peterson, is that who we're replacing
Yeah.
on both?
Yeah.
Yes,
So it's the same, they're both expiring Friday. Her,
2019.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, last year.
Yes, last year.
Oh,
And
we
you
did
already-
fill in,
You already did Terry Heater for Delia Pittard, because she was the one that is a relative of Delia.
so we
Pittard.
don't need to, so we're just, okay, I'm
So
sorry.
you're just
Yeah.
doing the children's health care to
I
align with
apologize.
that.
So whose
Right.
motion is it?
You made it, I seconded it, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Here's Terry. We have one application for Mike Street, would like to be on the Lincoln Fire Board. I make a motion, we put him on the Lincoln Fire Board.
Second.
Any discussion? Do we have a time for that? That's first rule expires 2/28/20, so this would be 2/28/23? To expire 2/28/23. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Mike's approved. Deb Ortez on the Web Fund. And that expires, this week. So I move we appoint Deb Ortez, reappoint her to the Web Fund Committee for a term to expire 2/28/23.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Done. Hospital Board, we have 4 positions to replace. And you have the list. And I will make a motion that for those 4 positions, we nominate David Gershman, Cody Flynn, Bob Bertelson, and Jerry Ladd. For
Second.
terms to expire, and those are 3 years as well, are they not?
Yes.
To expire 2/28/23. Those aren't staggered, or are they?
Yes, they are. Who was the third?
The third
Sorry.
is Bob Bertelson.
One position needs to be an unexpired term that was, and I think I put it on
That was
that
Bob's,
sheet.
wasn't that?
Yes, on the front, or
maybe I
2
was on
sheets.
far enough.
actually, I think.
Unexpired.
So who is
It
the
would be
unexpired
Jack, no.
So let's let,
Yes, it would be Jack Crispin's spot, which was then Krangle, which will now be.
yeah, so Jerry Ladd will take the rest of that unexpired term, just because he's on the bottom of
Second.
the list here.
That's
Okay.
second to that. So we have 3 expiring 2/29/23.
Yeah, 2/28/23.
Oh,
this has 29 on it.
That's cause
Oh,
I
cause
can't
it's leap
count.
year. It's leap year. I'm sorry, 28.
28,
And
yep.
Jerry Ladd is the serving the.
He serves the unexpired term. and
That will
that's
be
what,
2
2
years.
years, whatever.
22.
Okay.
2/28 of 22.
All in favor of those 4 members of the appropriate terms, say aye.
Aye.
It's a done deal. We've got the boards.
There was a Gary Jones for Barnville Fire, was that
I
on?
didn't see him.
You
but,
read his letter last
I did.
week.
Uh,
I know I had it.
That's all right. I will, make a motion to appoint Gary Jones to the Barn Fire Department. Fire
Second.
District. And a second? And that's a 3-year term, I think that expires. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
If I have more, I'll bring them on Friday.
That'll work.
I'm
I
just
feel
gonna
like
put this
somebody
in this
did-
Yeah,
board.
yeah, tell them, yeah, we're good. This when we bring up the Board of Commissioners pay raise, we have to go in closed session for that. Any further business to come before the board?
Yes, kind of, no.
Yes,
But
ma'am.
yes, Sarah, do you understand what it is that they're wanting you to do with the pay scale?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I had.
Okay,
And I will come with questions Friday if I have any.
Okay. Just kind of, we will be doing payroll this week though, and then we'll kind of, so it'll be
Yeah,
a couple of week thing, but.
yeah,
I
that's
have a
in anything
question.
we're gonna do right now, yes, ma'am.
Who do you want to do notifications for boards? Because that's part of the breakdown that we've had in communication. We kind of toyed around the idea of should HR serve as supplemental secretary because Dawn ends up having to do all the follow-up phone calls. So we don't have our chairman here right now, but someone needs to,
If you want me to do it, I can do it, coming from the board
Well,
since we
normally I
appointed.
do all of the notifications at one time, so you guys, I guess, are tasked with finding people or calling the people that we're serving that don't understand that they're supposed to submit something.
Okay,
And so all the positions you just didn't appoint still need to be filled. So,
so we need to, all right,
where was that sheet that I gave, that you just
It's
had?
all here.
All the names are on there.
oh, wait, did we open these? Oh wait, these are old, yeah,
you put it,
we did prior.
That sheet that I just had
yeah,
given
I
you.
thought we had it just here. This one right here was yours, I think.
Yes, so,
Who do I need to call?
okay, so we can cross this one out because you just appointed. Did you guys decide to disband the preservation board?
We didn't.
We didn't action on that yet.
So these are the preservation board members that didn't get appointed last year. The repeater board, one of these two people, because they appointed a person that expressed interest.
Okay,
I swear that, well, maybe it was Mike
you got
Streets.
2 out of 3.
And then there's this one, and then you
Okay.
still have, so those we
But I gotta
still need to do,
Call somebody here. We only need one of these, right?
yes.
Alright.
And then on this page, we know we just did,
Gary,
and we did Mike Street. Mike Cole called, but, I will check and make sure, I like rummaged through my
I
desk, but,
think I brought the
You
emails
did?
forward already.
and this is up in the air.
yeah. So we
Do
still,
we need anything of that preservation board?
Well, I still need to talk to, Terry. I haven't been in the same place at
no,
the same time
you
as
still have to
her.
do that. You
Well,
still have to do that
okay.
first. No, you did the unexpired.
Sorry, okay.
That's okay. And she's here. So you could ask
She's
Cindy if
hiding
you wanted
back
to.
there.
Do you
Um,
want to submit an
I
application
did send a letter in, but I don't know
for
where it
the,
went
for which?
for the board.
You sent it in?
About 2 weeks ago, when the ad came out in the Lincoln paper.
I'll make the motion, we appoint Cynthia Nelson to the Crime Victims Restitution Board.
They only make about.
I'll
maybe
second, but
4
I would
times
like a,
year.
yeah, I would like a point of discussion on that. I'll second. Are you getting, as a board how many people are on that board?
4,
4 people? Are
Well,
you,
plus the person that, Barb Gorley, and I don't know, does she go off the board? She's been on it the whole time I've been. But she's the one that calls when there's something submitted from, the county attorney.
Have you received many submissions?
Like I said, there's been 4 since I was there,
and you've been on for 1 year?
2, it's 2 years.
So you served an you were filling an unexpired term?
No, well, I don't know, wasn't
I think it's 3 years.
Well, then
Or did I
then
miss
I
some?
am just a, but I've only
All
been
in
here 2
favor of
years.
appointing, say aye.
Well, wait a minute, I have another
Okay,
point of
you're still
discussion though. I
discussing.
wanna know, are you getting, is there a treasurer? Are you getting reports? I've never seen hide nor hair of any of this money, and I'm just
I
wondering.
don't know how it's set up.
if it's a
No, you might
commission,
know how it's been set up, but it's usually the county attorney. There's someone that makes something happens and they want to have restitution money-wise because they don't either ever have insurance or something to that effect, and so they
Well,
can
I've been
apply.
involved in it, if I may interrupt you.
They can apply for monies then from the county to restore, from the monies that have been built up at the county attorney's office. And
Mhm.
usually it is a referral from the sheriff's department that goes to the county attorney to verify that, and then we get that form. And we have a meeting, and there may be 2 or 3 that we look at those meetings. So maybe, I'm saying, maybe 6 to 7 things a year.
The problem you run into, I never did apply for it, because when I found out the hook on it, I didn't do it. You go to a county attorney and you make the application, they do whatever the adjudication is. You can only receive 1 victim's restitution per year. So if you go in, I had somebody did some damage out on a property for $300, $400, $500. Had I been paid for that and somebody come along and stole 10 cows, I'm out of luck, because you can only get paid once. So I figured
That's correct.
I just eat the first.
but where are the treasury reports? How much is in the fund? How much has been
That's
dispersed?
part of the county
That's the
attorney
county attorney's
handles all
office.
that, and it's probably a state.
And like when the
funded
police may
program.
come out and would see how many cattle you had stolen or whatever, it would be up to them whether they would.
But does
turn
the
that
board
in.
not receive a treasury report? I mean, how does the board know what they're dispersing if they don't have a funds report of a total balance and a
I
disbursement?
have no idea.
I
You've
think
never
it's-
received any
no,
paperwork?
It's a state fund, I believe, and you guys are just adjudicating the request to
Yeah,
decide if
we're
it's a
just
valid
asking
request.
whether or not they should or should not.
But I'm saying, how do you know as a board whether to allocate funds if you don't know whether the funds are
I'm
there?
not sure that it's a county arranged board. It might be an outside of the county board that you have to have people that make those decisions. Other counties don't do it the same way.
Well, I'll call for a
Private
vote on the motion.
institutions.
If you're here and saying in person, I think that's good as good as you said you
But those
sent
are
a
all
letter.
good questions to ask, and I'd
Aye.
like to know the answers.
Aye.
I have no idea what I do. I just go to the meetings and we approve whether or not we're supposed to be there. We've never had like a treasurer's report. The county attorney hasn't been at the meetings, but Barb Gorley speaks in her place, and I'm not sure what her title or anything of it is.
What does the preservation board do? Do we need to get,
Well, they were, according to some of the history that Dawn has shared, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Dawn, they were formed so that they thought they needed to be an entity that could receive funds for donations and to apply for grants, correct?
They, yes, kind of, sort of, but they originally formed so that they asked the county to put to the voters a mill levy question, so they had to be formed in order to be.
And it failed.
And it failed twice. They come and ask for a 3rd time, and at that point in time, the tax lid was off, and the commissioners could have, like, I didn't have anything to actually ask a question for, because there was no statutes that required it, so we didn't put it to a vote, and the commissioners chose not to.
And my,
Now, that preservation board itself has applied for grant funds in the past, but normally I've been the administrator through it. I think the last time that they applied, I think Sylvan Historical Society was the administrator through it.
right, and my comment was we give, I think it's $1,500 or $2,000 to the Historical Society every year.
More, $4,500.
Oh, well, excuse my math, but
75% to one, 25% to the other.
which two entities? Oh, to Lincoln and
Lincoln and
Sylvan, I'm
Sylvan.
sorry. So that being said, I thought since we already disperse a line item from the general fund to the Historical Society, we don't necessarily need to appoint a preservation board. If they want to exist on their own, nobody's stopping them. But if the county's not gonna allocate money, we're not even appointing the historical board members and we're giving them money.
Yeah.
Are you on the Historical Society board? Are those used as operating funds for,
Yeah, I think that that's what it's used for.
like, overhead for the building to exist, or?
No, I think it's probably used for the little part-time
Job?
director job, yeah.
Do you follow that?
I'm not sure I've understood any reason to keep it.
No, I'm not, yeah, yeah. Two things tied into one. We fund the historical society, but don't appoint their board members. We're appointing a preservation board and don't give them funding. I think we should just do away with the preservation board. Although I promised I would talk to, Terry Lilac, and I have not run into her, so,
What I recommend we do, just leave it alone, let it die a slow death unless something comes up.
okay. I will follow through on that, though. I have seen her car parked and hadn't been able to stop when I did, so I wanted to speak to her in person. I don't have anything else until,
John, do you know anything about the Crime Victims Restitution Board, like how many years or any of that? I never did receive a letter.
when are we
So
gonna
I
work
just
on
knew I
this?
was supposed to go, or
As soon as she gives me that, her comments, which probably won't be this week, I'm only looking at, she has a bunch of editorial stuff, and soon as I
You were
put that in
appointed
there, it's
3
ready
years
to go
ago,
as far as I can
and
tell.
last year's the only
Did
year.
you see anything in there that needed to be worked on?
I wanted to make sure we have all the little,
Because I had that
all
you
the
were
little
expired on
parts that we
2/29/20.
talked about for our,
I think
Like-
you were the very first
Okay.
year she.
I'll go
In
through
Did
essence,
it.
I feel somebody's
The only change that
position?
we're gonna make
Is
to
that
the
what one
K
was?
camp one
You
is
did
put
some
making
unexpired.
county specific things in there.
No.
So otherwise, we're probably just
I
gonna
think
do
it was the
that.
very
She didn't
first
like
year
my
she was-
format, so we may go back to their format even.
And so what is
This-
Barb Worley's position?
The highway department gave us
I mean,
this
is that
as
ever
a reference,
expired?
it's the Lee County's pay scale for their highway department, just
I have
as
3
a
members,
reference.
yourself,
Something to
Charlie,
focus on.
Okay, so they're just
Information
four
one.
total, or is there 4 plus Barb?
we just have 3 members. Plus Barb.
Okay. 4
But
total.
Barb is
I will
not
give
in
you the rest of
Does
these
she
when
vote?
we finalize our
Or does she just?
pay
vote for
resolution, the
this?
rest
She
of the
votes.
evaluation.
She gets the paperwork from the county or the police department and then calls the meeting together, we meet, and then we yay or nay.
I think Bob Kringle originally set that up, so maybe there's a standing member that's appointed by somebody else, I don't know. I can look, but I just can't promise you I'll look this week, but I will.
Oh, no,
Add it to my
that's
list,
fine.
yeah.
It's a question I could have asked any time during the last 2 years. What are we meeting for and why am I here?
And we just reappointed you? No, I'm kidding. We haven't had any
Thank
learns.
you so much. I'll try to ask the questions at the next time.
Okay, do you want this?
No, I
Dawn,
thought
do
you
you
wanted
want
to put that over
these, or
there.
do you want me to put these together?
How about I take those back?
The letters?
Yes.
Well, let me include the rest of them, then. I'm stashing them away here.
Cause I'm curious where Cindy's is, if she said that she.
Well, I noticed though
I
that
sent
mail
one.
that we got from Lorelei it was sent on the 13th, so it didn't even get here for almost a week.
And it's been, 'cause I haven't been.
I
to
normally
meetings
date
for
stamp
weeks.
everything.
No, yours came in, it came on the 18th, it came the day after our meeting, but I'm saying, if,
That's when it first came out in the newspaper, because that's when I asked to see.
Are we done?
If that's been so long, because
Till Friday at 10?
normally,
Till Friday
I was
at 10.
told I would get a letter
I-
if I was going off the board, but I never got a letter.
That's okay.
Whatever.
I'll ask. I'm just
Anybody has an
wondering.
interest in USD
You know where I
298?
You can come and find me.
USD 298, anybody interested in that?
For what?
I need a couple positions on the Educational Foundation Board for it. That board has received nearly $500,000 from Alma Macaulay as money to develop whatever we need to do. A lot of it
I read
will
about
be scholarships, but the rest of it, as Dan Metz told us the other day, you now can do things you haven't even thought about for the school district. So
like
we
what?
need- We don't even know, whatever you wanna do.
Oh.
We have $400,000 that is no strings on it whatsoever in any way, shape, or form.
I would love to be on something that had education in it, since
Would you-
that's been my whole experience all my life.
Well, why don't you,
But,
join up?
I
We meet
just
once a
know this
month.
other board that I have.
Has he adjourned actually?
It's a good.
Yeah,
board.
he did say until
Is it?
Friday.
Well,
If
is
you're
it
interested.
advertised? I mean, I don't know.
He
what
did
the-
technically adjourn. I'm gonna go, so that'll
Go
be
talk
good.
to the super.